At 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in Manhattan, Noah Bennett made the worst decision of his life. He knocked on a billionaire's door and told her exactly what he thought of her. Standing there in wrinkled pajamas and 3 days without proper sleep, he called Victoria Hale selfish, spoiled, and completely worthless to society. What he didn't know was that the woman staring back at him controlled half the real estate in New York and could destroy his life with a single phone call. But before we get to how this collision of two impossible worlds changed everything, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let me take you back to where it all started. The bass hit at 1:43 a.m. Noah Bennett's eyes snapped open in the darkness of his cramped bedroom, his daughter's stuffed rabbit clutched against his chest from where he'd fallen asleep reading to her. The ceiling above him vibrated with the kind of deep, pulsing rhythm that didn't just invade your ears. It crawled into your bones and nested there. He lay still for a moment, jaw clenched, counting the seconds between beats, hoping it would stop, knowing it wouldn't. Through the thin wall to his left, he could hear Emma shifting in her bed. She was 6 years old and had school in the morning. So did he. Well, work, which felt harder than school had ever been. The freelance illustration deadline sitting on his laptop wasn't going to meet itself, and his actual job at the design firm started at 9, whether he'd slept or not. The bass dropped harder. Noah threw off his blanket and sat up, running both hands through hair that desperately needed cutting. His apartment, if you could call 850 square feet of overpriced Manhattan real estate an apartment, consisted of 2 bedrooms barely larger than closets, a kitchen where you couldn't open the refrigerator and oven at the same time, and a living room that doubled as his workspace. Every surface held something: Emma's school projects, his drawing tablets, half-finished coffee cups, bills he kept meaning to organize. He'd moved here 3 years ago after the divorce, taking whatever he could afford that kept Emma in her school district. The building was old, poorly insulated, and managed by a landlord who considered maintenance a suggestion rather than an obligation. But it was theirs. He'd made it work. Until 6 months ago, when someone bought the penthouse apartment directly above him. The music got louder. Noah stood up, grabbed his phone from the nightstand, and checked the time. 1:51 a.m. He pulled up his message history with the building's property manager, a thread of complaints that had gone exactly nowhere. Excessive noise from penthouse unit. Again. 3rd time this week. He didn't bother waiting for a response. There never was one that mattered. His bedroom door creaked open. Emma stood there in her unicorn pajamas, holding the stuffed rabbit he must have dropped, her dark curls matted on one side from sleep. "Daddy, I can't sleep." Noah's chest tightened. He crossed to her and knelt down, brushing hair from her forehead. "I know, sweetheart. I'm going to fix it, okay? You said that last time. This time I mean it." Emma looked at him with those too serious eyes that made her seem older than 6. She'd learned early that promises from adults didn't always hold weight. Her mother had taught her that lesson well before disappearing to Portland with her new boyfriend and a vague commitment to stay in touch. "Go back to bed," Noah said gently. "I'll take care of it." She nodded, but didn't move. "Are you going to yell at them?" "I'm going to talk to them." "That's adult for yelling." Despite everything, Noah almost smiled. "Where'd you learn that?" "You say it to Grandma on the phone." "Fair point." He kissed her forehead. "Bed, now. And if you're still awake in 20 minutes, you can sleep in my room." Emma shuffled back toward her bedroom, dragging the rabbit behind her. Noah watched until she closed the door, then turned his attention to the ceiling, where the chandelier he couldn't afford to replace was now actively shaking. He tried everything. Polite notes slipped under the door, calls to the property manager, even a carefully worded email to the building's owner, which had bounced back as undeliverable. Whoever lived in that penthouse existed in a completely different world, one where 2 a.m. bass drops were apparently acceptable because money insulated you from consequences. Noah walked to his own front door and opened it, stepping into the hallway. The building had been constructed in the 1920s, back when they built walls thick enough to actually contain sound. Every apartment was its own fortress of privacy, except for whatever leaked through the floors. But the penthouse had been renovated 2 years ago, gutted and rebuilt into something modern that probably cost more than Noah would earn in his lifetime. The elevator at the end of the hall had an out-of-order sign that had been there since March. Noah took the stairs, climbing from the 4th floor to the 5th, where a single door marked penthouse occupied the entire landing. The walls up here were different, newer, painted in some designer shade that probably had a name like Morning Dove or Whispered Sage. The music was deafening. Noah raised his fist and pounded on the door. Once, twice, 3 times. Nothing. He pounded again, harder, using the side of his fist like he was trying to break through to someone trapped on the other side. The music cut off mid-beat. Silence rushed in to fill the void, so sudden and complete that Noah's ears rang. He stepped back, suddenly aware of how he looked. Barefoot, wearing pajama pants and an old college t-shirt with a hole near the collar, unshaven, probably wild-eyed. The door opened. For a second, Noah's anger short-circuited, replaced by pure confusion. The woman standing in the doorway looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine spread about what rich people wore to be casually perfect. White silk pajamas that probably cost more than his rent. Dark hair pulled back in a way that seemed effortless but definitely wasn't. Face bare of makeup, but somehow glowing with the kind of skin that came from expensive products and enough sleep. She was beautiful in that untouchable way that made Noah immediately aware of every way he was falling apart. "Can I help you?" Her voice was smooth, cultured, with just enough edge to suggest she was annoyed at being interrupted. Noah's anger came roaring back. "Yeah, you can help me," he said. "You can explain what the hell you think you're doing, blasting music at 2 in the morning in a residential building where people have jobs and kids and lives that don't revolve around whatever party you're throwing up here." The woman blinked, clearly unused to being spoken to this way. "I wasn't aware the volume wasn't aware?" Noah cut her off. "Lady, my daughter can't sleep. I can't work. Your bass is literally shaking my ceiling. This is the 3rd time this week, and I am done being polite about it. I apologize if—" "No, you don't apologize if. You apologize because you're being inconsiderate. Because you clearly don't give a damn about anyone else in this building. Let me guess. You bought this place as an investment property? Somewhere to crash between actual homes? Or maybe you're so rich you just forgot that other people exist." Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe? Or the beginning of anger. But she kept her voice level. "You're clearly upset." "I'm exhausted," Noah said. "I work 2 jobs trying to keep a roof over my kid's head in this overpriced city, and I don't have the energy to deal with someone who thinks money means they can do whatever they want without consequences. You want to throw parties? Buy a house in the Hamptons. Want to blast music at 2 a.m.? Get a place that's not on top of other people trying to survive. I understand you're frustrated. You don't understand anything." Noah could hear his voice rising but couldn't stop it. 3 nights of broken sleep, 6 months of this, 3 years of barely holding everything together. It all came pouring out. "You live up here in your penthouse like the rest of us don't exist. You probably have people who do everything for you. You've never had to choose between fixing your car and buying your kid new shoes. You've never fallen asleep wondering if you're screwing up your daughter's life because you can't give her the stability she deserves." The woman's expression had gone very still. "You don't know anything about me. I know enough. I know you're selfish. I know you're spoiled. I know that whatever problems you think you have, they're nothing compared to real life. So do me a favor. Turn off your music, stop treating this building like your personal playground, and maybe try thinking about someone other than yourself for 5 minutes." Noah turned and headed back toward the stairs before she could respond, his heart hammering. He definitely just made things worse. She probably knew the building owner, probably had lawyers, probably could have him evicted with a single phone call. But as he descended the stairs back to his floor, Emma's face in the doorway kept replaying in his mind. "I can't sleep, Daddy." His hands were shaking when he let himself back into his apartment. The silence felt almost sacred now. He stood in the living room for a moment, breathing hard, waiting for his pulse to slow. Emma's door opened again. "Did you fix it?" "Yeah, baby, I fixed it." This time she smiled, small but real. "Okay. Night, Daddy." "Good night, sweetheart." Noah waited until her door closed again before sinking onto the couch and dropping his head into his hands. He'd just screamed at a stranger, a rich stranger who definitely had the power to make his life significantly harder. But the apartment stayed quiet. He pulled his laptop open and stared at the illustration half-finished on his screen, a children's book about a rabbit who learned to be brave. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had 4 more pages to finish by Friday, and he'd promised Emma they'd go to the park on Saturday if the weather held. Noah worked until 4 a.m. when his eyes finally refused to focus anymore. He managed 3 hours of sleep before his alarm dragged him back to consciousness at 7. Emma needed breakfast. He needed to shower. The subway wouldn't wait. By the time he dropped Emma at school and made it to the design firm where he worked as a junior graphic designer, a title that sounded better than it was, the confrontation with the penthouse woman had taken on a surreal quality. Had he really said all that? To a complete stranger? His coworker, Marcus, leaned over the partition between their cubicles. "You look like death." "Thanks. That's the aesthetic I was going for." "Late night?" "You could say that." Noah logged into his computer and pulled up the current project, a rebrand for a chain of organic juice bars that wanted to look more authentic. The irony of designing authenticity for rich people wasn't lost on him. "Did you finish the Morrison illustrations?" Marcus asked. 3 of the 4. "I'll have the last one done tonight." "Man, I don't know how you do it. Full-time here, freelance at night, single dad." Lots of coffee and a general sense of impending doom. Marcus laughed, but Noah wasn't entirely joking. His phone buzzed with a text from Emma's school asking him to update his emergency contact information. He added it to the mental list of things he'd get to eventually, somewhere between doing laundry and sleeping. The day crawled by in a series of client revisions and meetings that could have been emails. By the time Noah picked Emma up from after-school care at 6, his head was pounding and his patience was thin. "How was school?" he asked as they walked toward the subway. "Fine." "What'd you do?" "Stuff." Noah glanced down at her. "That good, huh?" Emma shrugged, her backpack nearly as big as she was. "Can we have pizza for dinner?" "We had pizza Tuesday." "That was 2 days ago." Emma, "Please? Just this once?" Noah did the math in his head. Pizza meant not cooking, which meant more time to work on the illustration. It also meant spending money he'd planned to save, but the exhaustion was winning. "Okay, but just this once." Emma's face lit up, and Noah felt the familiar mix of pride and guilt. Pride that he could still make her happy, guilt that pizza felt like a luxury. They took the subway home, Emma chattering about something that happened at recess, while Noah tried to stay awake. When they emerged at their stop, the evening air hit them with that particular Manhattan smell of hot asphalt and food carts, and too many people in too small a space. Their building looked exactly as tired as Noah felt. The front door stuck. It always stuck. And the lobby smelled faintly of old carpet and disappointment. Noah checked the mail while Emma pushed the elevator button repeatedly, as if that would make it arrive faster. "Still broken," she announced. "I can see that." They climbed the stairs to the 4th floor, Emma counting each step aloud because it made it feel like an adventure instead of a chore. Noah's legs ached by the top. He unlocked their apartment door and froze. Sitting in the hallway outside his door was a large white box tied with an expensive-looking ribbon. "What's that?" Emma asked. Noah picked up the box carefully, checking for a card or note. Nothing. It was surprisingly heavy. He carried it inside and set it on the kitchen counter while Emma dumped her backpack and went to change out of her school clothes. The box opened easily. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a top-of-the-line noise-canceling sound machine, the kind designed for apartments with thin walls. Below it was a handwritten note on thick cardstock. "I'm sorry about the noise. You were right. I wasn't thinking about anyone else. This won't fix everything, but I hope it helps your daughter sleep. VH." Noah stared at the note, trying to process it. VH, the woman from the penthouse. She'd sent him a gift, an expensive gift, after he'd yelled at her and called her selfish. "Daddy, what is it?" Emma appeared at his elbow, now wearing her favorite sweatshirt with the cat on it. "It's a sound machine. For sleeping." "From who?" "The neighbor upstairs." Emma frowned. "The loud one?" "Yeah, she's apologizing." "Oh." Emma considered this. "That's nice." Noah wasn't sure what it was. Part of him wanted to return it. Taking gifts from rich strangers felt wrong somehow. But another part of him recognized the gesture for what it was. Genuine. She'd heard him. Actually heard him. And she'd responded. He set the sound machine on Emma's bedside table that night, showing her how to turn it on and adjust the settings. She picked ocean waves. Within minutes of the sound starting, her eyes were drooping. "It's nice," she murmured. "Yeah," Noah agreed softly. "It is." He left her door cracked open and returned to the living room, picking up the note again. The handwriting was elegant, each letter carefully formed. The kind of penmanship you learned at expensive schools. You were right. How many rich people would admit that? How many people at all? Noah pulled out his phone and opened a new message to the building's property manager. "Please pass along my thanks to the penthouse resident for the gift." He hit send before he could overthink it, then settled in for another night of freelance work. But he kept glancing at that note, at those 3 words that changed the equation. "You were right." The response came 2 days later, but not through the property manager. Noah found another note slipped under his door on Thursday morning. Same elegant handwriting, same expensive cardstock. "I'd like to apologize in person, if you'll let me, and I'd like to ask you something. Victoria Hale." Below it was a phone number. Noah stood in his hallway, coffee in one hand and note in the other, trying to figure out if this was real life. Victoria Hale wanted to apologize to him, in person, and she wanted to ask him something. He Googled the name while Emma ate breakfast. The results made his coffee go cold. Victoria Hale, age 30, billionaire heiress to the Hale Property Group, which owned approximately half the commercial real estate in Manhattan and significant holdings in 6 other major cities. Daughter of Richard and Margaret Hale, educated at Princeton and Harvard Business School, board member of 4 major corporations. Estimated net worth, $4.2 billion. The woman he'd called selfish and spoiled wasn't just rich, she was one of the most powerful people in New York. "Daddy, you're staring at your phone," Emma said. Noah set the phone down. "Sorry, baby. Finish your cereal." He spent the entire subway ride to work thinking about it. By the time he reached his desk, he'd talked himself out of responding at least 6 times. What could Victoria Hale possibly want from him? What could they even have to say to each other? But curiosity won out. During his lunch break, Noah stepped outside and dialed the number. She answered on the second ring. "This is Victoria." "Hi, it's Noah, Bennett, from downstairs." "Noah." He could hear the smile in her voice. "Thank you for calling." "Thanks for the sound machine. My daughter loves it." "I'm glad. Did you get my note?" "Yeah, about that. Why do you want to apologize in person? The sound machine was more than enough." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "Because you said something that's been stuck in my head since Tuesday night. You said I live like other people don't exist. And you were right. I want to apologize properly, and I want to ask if you'd be willing to show me what I'm missing." Noah almost laughed. "Show you what you're missing? Real life. The kind you described. I've spent my entire life insulated from it. I go from penthouses to boardrooms to events where everyone wants something from me. You didn't want anything. You just wanted me to turn down the music. It was the most honest conversation I've had in years." "Lady Victoria, I don't think you understand what you're asking." "Then explain it to me, please. One afternoon, show me what your life actually looks like." Noah leaned against the building, watching people stream past on their lunch breaks. This was insane. She was insane. He should say no and delete her number and forget this entire bizarre situation. "Why?" he asked instead. "Because I'm tired of living in a bubble. Because you called me spoiled and selfish and you were right. Because for once in my life, I want to know what it's like to be told the truth instead of what people think I want to hear." Something in her voice got to him, a kind of loneliness he recognized. "Saturday," he said before he could stop himself. "I'm taking my daughter to the park. You want to see real life? That's it. No fancy restaurants, no cars, just the park." "What time?" 10 a.m. Meet me at the lobby." "I'll be there." Noah hung up and immediately wondered what he'd just agreed to. Emma was going to have questions. He was going to have to explain why a billionaire was joining them at the park. And he had no idea what Victoria Hale actually expected from this. But part of him, the part that had stood in her doorway at 2 a.m. and told her exactly what he thought, was curious to see if she'd actually show up. Saturday morning arrived cold and clear. Noah woke early, made pancakes, and tried to figure out how to explain this to Emma. "Remember the neighbor who sent the sound machine?" he said over breakfast. Emma nodded, mouth full of pancake. "She asked if she could join us at the park today." Emma swallowed. "Why?" "She wants to apologize for being loud." "Oh." Emma considered this. Is she nice? I don't know yet. What if she's mean? Then we'll leave. Emma seemed satisfied with this logic and went back to her pancakes. Noah cleaned up the kitchen, his stomach doing nervous flips that he couldn't quite explain. This was just a trip to the park. Nothing special. Definitely not worth the amount of mental energy he was spending on it. At 9:58 a.m., he and Emma headed downstairs. The lobby was empty except for Mrs. Chen from 2B collecting her mail. At exactly 10 o'clock, the front door opened and Victoria Hale walked in. Noah barely recognized her. Gone was the silk pajamas and untouchable perfection. She wore jeans, actual jeans that looked like they'd been worn before, and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Sneakers, no makeup that he could detect. She looked younger somehow, more human. "Hi," she said, and there was something nervous in her smile. "Hi," Noah replied. "This is Emma." Emma, who had been hiding slightly behind Noah's leg, peeked out. "Hi. It's very nice to meet you, Emma." Victoria knelt down to Emma's level. "Your dad tells me you like unicorns?" Emma's eyes widened. "How did you know?" "Lucky guess. My niece is obsessed with them too." The ice broke a little. Emma stepped out from behind Noah's leg. "Do you have kids?" "No, just the niece. Her name is Sophie. She's 7. I'm 6. That's a good age." They started walking, Emma between them, chattering about unicorns and her friend Madison, and something that happened at recess that Noah had heard 3 times but pretended was new. Victoria listened attentively, asking questions, seeming genuinely interested. Noah watched her carefully, waiting for the mask to slip, for the bored rich person to emerge. But she just kept listening. They reached the park, a small rectangle of green surrounded by buildings, with a playground that had seen better days and basketball courts where teenagers were already gathering. Emma made a beeline for the swings. "Push me, Daddy," Noah obliged, while Victoria stood nearby, taking in the scene. Families scattered across the grass, a street performer setting up near the entrance, the smell of hot dogs from a cart. "This is nice," Victoria said quietly. Noah glanced at her. It's just a park." "It's more than that." Emma demanded to go higher and Noah pushed harder, watching his daughter's delighted face. When she finally got bored with the swings, she dragged them both to the slide, then the monkey bars, maintaining a steady stream of commentary about everything. After an hour, they sat on a bench while Emma played in the sandbox with some other kids. "Thank you for letting me come," Victoria said. "You're welcome." Noah paused. "You really wanted to apologize just by spending a morning at the park?" "I wanted to see it. What you described that night, the life I was disrupting." She watched Emma. "You're a good father." "I'm doing my best." "That's more than a lot of people can say." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What did you mean when you said I don't understand real problems?" Noah considered how to answer that. "I meant that when you're worried about whether you can pay rent and keep your kid fed and make it through another month without something breaking that you can't afford to fix, the problems that come with money seem pretty abstract." "Fair." Victoria nodded slowly. "But what if I told you that money doesn't solve loneliness? That I can't remember the last time someone talked to me like I was just a person instead of a bank account or a business opportunity? That every friendship I have comes with the question of whether they actually like me or just what I can do for them?" Noah looked at her, really looked, and saw something he hadn't noticed before, the same exhaustion he saw in his own mirror. "I'd say that sounds lonely," he said honestly. "It is." Victoria smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You know what's funny? When you yelled at me the other night, it was the first genuine conversation I'd had in months, maybe longer. Everyone else is so careful, so calculated. You just told me the truth. I was pretty rude about it. You were honest. There's a difference." Emma came running over, covered in sand. "Daddy, can we get ice cream?" Noah checked his watch. "It's 11 in the morning." "So?" "So ice cream is not breakfast." "We already had breakfast. This would be second breakfast." Victoria laughed. "I like her logic." "Don't encourage her," Noah said, but he was smiling. "Fine. But just this once." They walked to the ice cream cart near the park entrance, Emma skipping ahead. Noah bought her a small vanilla cone and got himself coffee from the hot dog vendor. Victoria ordered mint chocolate chip and insisted on paying for all of it. You don't have to do that, Noah protested. I know. I want to. They found another bench and sat while Emma worked on her ice cream, getting more of it on her face than in her mouth. Can I ask you something? Noah said. Of course. What exactly are you looking for here? Because this, he gestured around them, this is just a regular Saturday. There's nothing special about it. Victoria took a bite of her ice cream, thinking, maybe that's the point. I don't know what a regular Saturday feels like. I don't know what it's like to just exist without an agenda or a schedule or people watching everything I do. I want to learn. Why me, though? You could hire someone to teach you about normal life, pay a consultant or something. Because you didn't want anything from me. You just wanted me to be considerate. And because, she hesitated. Because when you called me selfish, you weren't wrong. I've been so focused on managing my family's business and living up to expectations that I forgot to actually live. Emma finished her ice cream and immediately wanted to go back to the playground. Noah and Victoria followed, settling on a bench where they could watch her. What do you do? Victoria asked. Besides being a dad. I'm a graphic designer, junior level, which is a fancy way of saying I do the work nobody else wants. And I do freelance illustration at night to make ends meet. What kind of illustration? Mostly children's books. Some editorial work? Whatever pays. Do you enjoy it? Noah thought about it. The illustration, yeah. The design work is just a paycheck. But the illustration, when I'm drawing, I forget about everything else for a while. It's just me and the page. That sounds like my architecture models. You do architecture? Victoria nodded. It's what I studied before business school. I used to design affordable housing projects, community centers, things that actually help people. But when my father got sick, I had to take over the company, and there wasn't time for anything else. Do you miss it? Every day. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Emma make friends with another girl on the seesaw. You want to know what I think? Noah said finally. Always. I think you're trying to figure out who you are when you're not being Victoria Hale, billionaire heiress. And that's going to be harder than spending a Saturday in the park. Victoria looked at him, surprised. You're right. I usually am. Ask Emma. She laughed. I like you, Noah Bennett. Don't get used to it. I'm not usually this tolerable before noon. But he was smiling when he said it. They stayed at the park until early afternoon, when Emma started getting cranky from hunger and sunshine. Noah suggested they grab lunch, and Victoria agreed immediately, following them to a small diner 3 blocks away that Noah and Emma frequented. The hostess seated them in a booth by the window. Emma ordered chicken fingers. Noah got a burger. Victoria studied the menu like it was written in a foreign language. You've never been to a diner before, have you? Noah asked. Not like this. Victoria looked around at the worn vinyl booths and laminate tables. It's very lived in. That's one word for it. She ordered a BLT and seemed delighted when it arrived on regular white bread with no fancy garnish. Noah watched her take her first bite and saw genuine pleasure cross her face. This is really good, she said. It's a sandwich. It's a good sandwich. Emma monopolized the conversation through lunch, telling Victoria about her teacher and her friends and the book they were reading in class. Victoria listened like Emma was the most interesting person in the world. When they finished, Noah reached for his wallet, but Victoria had already handed her credit card to the server. I told you. And I told you I want to pay. Let me do this. Noah wanted to argue, but the truth was, having someone else cover lunch was a relief. He'd budgeted for Emma's ice cream, not a full meal. Thank you, he said quietly. Thank you for today. Really. They walked back toward the apartment building, Emma holding both their hands and swinging between them. It felt oddly domestic, natural. Like this wasn't the strangest Saturday Noah had experienced in years. At the building entrance, Victoria stopped. Can I do this again? Come to the park? Come back to your world. See what real life looks like. I know it's a lot to ask. Twice, Noah said. What? You can come twice more. 3 times total, including today. After that, we'll see. Victoria's face lit up. Really? Yeah, but on my terms. No drivers, no assistants. Just you showing up and participating. Deal? Deal. They shook on it, and Noah tried to ignore the fact that her hand was soft and warm and fit surprisingly well in his. Emma tugged on his other hand. Daddy, I need to pee. Okay, let's go. He looked at Victoria. Tuesday? Same time? I'll be here. Noah and Emma headed inside, leaving Victoria standing on the sidewalk. When Noah glanced back from the lobby, she was still there, looking up at the building like she was seeing it for the first time. I like her, Emma announced in the elevator. Yeah? She's nice, and she has good taste in ice cream. High praise. Emma grinned. Are we friends with her now? Noah hesitated. I don't know, baby. Maybe. But as he unlocked their apartment door and helped Emma out of her shoes, he realized that somewhere between the park and the diner, something had shifted. Victoria Hale wasn't just the inconsiderate neighbor anymore. She was something else. What exactly, Noah wasn't sure yet, but he had a feeling he was about to find out. Tuesday came faster than Noah expected. He spent Monday evening second-guessing the entire arrangement while finishing the last illustration for the Morrison project. Emma kept asking questions about Victoria, what she looked like, where she lived, why she wanted to hang out with them, and Noah found himself without good answers. She's just lonely, I think, he finally said, while tucking Emma into bed Monday night. Like you? Noah paused, blanket halfway pulled up. What makes you think I'm lonely? Emma shrugged against her pillow. You don't have any friends, just me and Grandma on the phone. The observation hit harder than it should have. I have Marcus from work. That's not a friend. That's someone you talk to because you have to. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just noticed. Noah kissed her forehead. Good night, philosopher. Night, Daddy. But Emma's words stayed with him as he returned to his laptop and the glowing screen that demanded his attention. When had his world shrunk so small? Work, Emma, freelance projects, sleep when he could manage it. Repeat. The divorce had carved away most of his friendships. Some people had sided with Sarah. Others had just drifted when he didn't have time or energy for drinks after work or weekend trips upstate. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Is it okay if I bring breakfast tomorrow? I found this bakery in Brooklyn that supposedly has the best bagels in the city. Victoria Noah stared at the message. She'd gotten his number somehow, probably from the building manager. Rich people could get anything. He typed back, You don't have to bring anything. Her response came immediately. I want to. Sesame or everything. Despite himself, Noah smiled. Everything. Emma likes plain with cream cheese. Perfect. See you at 10. He set his phone down and tried to focus on work, but his mind kept wandering to what Tuesday would bring. What did Victoria Hale expect from this? What did he expect? This wasn't friendship. They lived in completely different universes. But it wasn't nothing either. The next morning arrived gray and threatening rain. Noah got Emma ready for school, dropped her off with promises to pick her up early for their afternoon with Victoria, and headed to work with a knot of anticipation in his stomach that felt uncomfortably like nerves. Marcus noticed immediately. You're distracted. I'm always distracted. More than usual. What's going on? Noah considered lying, but what was the point? Remember the noise complaint I had about the penthouse? The music at 2 a.m.? Yeah, well, I kind of yelled at her, and she kind of apologized, and now she's coming over to spend the afternoon with me and Emma. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. The penthouse neighbor is a she? Apparently. And she's coming over? Like, to your apartment? Well, we're going out, showing her around the neighborhood. Man, Marcus leaned back in his chair. Is she hot? That's not... Noah stopped. That's not relevant. So, she is hot. I didn't say that. You didn't deny it either. Noah turned back to his computer. Focus on your own life. But Marcus was grinning. This is the most interesting thing that's happened to you since I've known you. He wasn't wrong. Noah spent the rest of the morning trying to concentrate on a logo redesign for a wellness startup while mentally cataloging everything that could go wrong with the afternoon. Victoria would realize how boring normal life actually was. Emma would say something embarrassing. It would rain, all of the above. At 2:30, Noah left work early, using one of his precious vacation hours, and picked Emma up from school. She bounced out of the building with her usual energy, backpack flopping. Is Victoria coming today? Yep. What are we doing? I don't know yet. Grocery shopping, maybe. Laundry, regular stuff. Emma made a face. That's boring. That's the point. She wanted to see real life. Real life is boring. Welcome to adulthood, kid. They reached the apartment building at 10 minutes to 4. Victoria was already there, sitting on the front steps with two large shopping bags beside her. She stood when she saw them, looking nervous in a way that somehow made her seem more approachable. "Hi," she said. "I hope I'm not early." "You're fine." Noah eyed the shopping bags. "What's all that?" "I might have gone a little overboard at the bakery, and there might be some things from the farmer's market, and possibly some books I thought Emma would like." Emma's eyes widened. "Books?" "Just a few." Victoria pulled out a bag containing what looked like at least 6 picture books. "The woman at the bookstore said these were good for your age." Emma grabbed the bag with reverence, usually reserved for major holidays. "Can I read them now?" "After homework," Noah said automatically. He looked at Victoria. "You didn't have to do all this." "I know, but I wanted to." She picked up the other bags. "Should we go up?" They climbed the stairs to the 4th floor, Emma chattering about her day at school, while Noah tried to see his apartment through Victoria's eyes. The cramped hallway, the scuffed walls, the door that stuck unless you lifted while turning the key. Inside wasn't much better. Toys scattered across the living room floor, despite his morning attempt at tidying, dishes in the sink from breakfast, his laptop open on the coffee table, cords everywhere. The life of someone perpetually behind on everything. Victoria set the bags down in the kitchen and looked around. Noah waited for judgment, for the subtle grimace of someone used to better. Instead, she smiled. "This is nice. It's a mess. It's lived in. There's a difference." She picked up one of Emma's drawings from the refrigerator, a crayon rendering of what might have been a house or possibly a dinosaur. "Did you make this, Emma?" Emma nodded proudly. "That's our building, and that's Daddy, and that's me. It's wonderful. You're very talented." Emma beamed and dragged Victoria over to see the rest of her gallery of refrigerator art. Noah started unpacking the bakery bags, finding bagels and pastries and fancy cheeses he'd never heard of. "Victoria, this is too much. Consider it payment for the tour." She turned from the refrigerator. "What do you normally do on Tuesday afternoons?" "Homework, dinner prep, laundry, if I'm lucky." "Can I help?" Noah almost laughed. "You want to help with laundry?" "I want to learn how you do it, when everything has to fit into limited time and limited budget." There was no pretense in her voice. She genuinely wanted to know. "Okay," Noah said slowly, "but you asked for it." He set Emma up at the kitchen table with her homework while he and Victoria tackled the dishes. It felt surreal, standing at his tiny sink with a billionaire heiress up to her elbows in soap suds. "I have a dishwasher in the penthouse," Victoria said, scrubbing a plate. 3, actually. I've never washed dishes by hand before." "You're missing out on all the glamour," she laughed. "Is it always like this? The constant juggling?" "Pretty much. There's never enough time or money or energy. You just do what you can and hope the important stuff gets done." "How do you decide what's important?" Noah dried a glass, thinking. "Emma comes first. Always. If she's fed and safe and happy, everything else is negotiable." That's a good philosophy. It's survival. They worked in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the domestic rhythm oddly soothing. Emma finished her math worksheet and moved on to reading, sounding out words under her breath. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said quietly. "What happened with Emma's mother?" Noah's hands stilled. "That's pretty personal for a second meeting." "I'm sorry. You don't have to." "No, it's okay." He set down the dish towel. "Sarah and I got married young. Too young, probably. We had Emma and things were good for a while. Then they weren't. She wanted a different life than this. More excitement, more freedom. She met someone who could give her that. They moved to Portland 2 years ago." "Does Emma see her?" "Birthdays and Christmas, usually. Sometimes video calls. Sarah's not a bad person. She's just not built for this kind of life." "And you are?" "I don't know if anyone's built for it. You just do it because the alternative is worse." Victoria nodded slowly. "You're stronger than you think." "I'm just tired most of the time." Those things aren't mutually exclusive. They finished the dishes and moved on to dinner prep. Noah pulled out chicken and vegetables for stir-fry. Cheap, quick, and Emma would actually eat it. Victoria watched him work, asking questions about everything. How did he know what to buy? How did he make it last? What did he do when Emma refused to eat? "You improvise a lot," she observed. Constantly. Parenting is just professional improvisation. Emma wandered over, book in hand. Daddy, what's this word? Noah looked. Magnificent. What's it mean? Really, really good. Beautiful. Emma tested it out. This book is magnificent. Excellent usage. Noah stirred the vegetables. Go wash your hands. Dinner in 10 minutes. They ate at the small kitchen table. Emma and Noah squeezed on one side, Victoria on the other. It was crowded and awkward, and the table wobbled because one leg was slightly short, but Emma dominated the conversation with a story about her friend Madison's lost tooth and the elaborate mythology they'd constructed around the Tooth Fairy's organizational system. Victoria listened like it was the most important story she'd ever heard. After dinner, Noah did the dishes again while Victoria helped Emma pick out pajamas and get ready for bed. He could hear them talking in the bedroom, Emma's high voice and Victoria's lower one, and something in his chest felt strange and tight. This was dangerous territory. Emma was getting attached. He was getting something. And Victoria would eventually go back to her real life, leaving them with an Emma-sized hole and unrealistic expectations. But when Victoria emerged from Emma's room with a soft smile, Noah couldn't bring himself to care about danger. She wants you to read to her, Victoria said, but she asked if I could stay and listen. They crowded onto Emma's bed, Noah in the middle reading one of the new books Victoria had brought, something about a brave mouse on an adventure. Emma's head rested against his shoulder, her eyes drooping. Victoria sat on the other side, perfectly still, watching. By the last page, Emma was asleep. Noah carefully extracted himself and turned off the light, leaving the door cracked open. Victoria followed him back to the living room, where the evening stretched ahead with unexpected awkwardness. Coffee? Noah offered. Please. He made 2 cups while Victoria examined his bookshelf, a collection of design books, illustrated classics, and paperback mysteries he'd been meaning to read for years. You have good taste, she said. Mostly leftovers from college and wishful thinking about free time. She pulled out a worn copy of a design theory book. I read this at Princeton. My professor said it changed how he thought about space. Did it change how you thought about it? Completely. That's when I realized architecture wasn't just about buildings. It was about people, how they moved through space, how design could make them feel safe or inspired or connected. She slid the book back. I wanted to design buildings that did that, before everything else got in the way. Noah handed her coffee and they sat on the couch, careful to leave space between them. Rain had started outside, tapping against the windows. Can I ask what happened? Noah said. With your father. You said he got sick. Victoria wrapped both hands around her mug. Pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed 3 years ago. He fought hard, but it spread fast. He died 18 months later. I'm sorry. Thank you. He was difficult, but he was my father. And he built an empire from nothing. Someone had to carry it forward. It had to be you? I'm the only child. My mother has no interest in business. The board expected me to step up. She stared into her coffee. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd get things stable and then go back to architecture. But temporary became permanent, and I can't remember the last time I drew anything that wasn't on a board agenda. Why don't you just leave? Hire someone else to run it. Because 2,000 people work for Hale Property Group. Their livelihoods depend on the company staying strong. And because everyone expects me to fail, the board, the industry, they're all waiting for the spoiled heiress to run it into the ground so they can swoop in and take over. Sounds lonely. It is. Victoria looked at him. That's why I'm here. Because you talk to me like I'm just a person, not a balance sheet or an opportunity or a problem to manage. You are just a person. You'd be surprised how many people forget that. They sat in silence, listening to the rain. Noah's laptop glowed on the coffee table, a freelance project half finished on the screen. What are you working on? Victoria asked. Children's book, about a rabbit who's afraid of the dark. Can I see? Noah opened the file and showed her the illustrations. Watercolor style, soft edges, careful attention to the rabbit's expressions. Victoria leaned in, studying each page. These are beautiful, she said softly. Really beautiful. Why are you wasting your talent on logo redesigns? Because logo redesigns pay the bills. Illustration pays some bills. Together, they almost cover everything. Have you ever thought about doing it full time? Just the illustration? Noah laughed. On what safety net? I've got Emma. I can't take those kinds of risks. What if you had a safety net? I don't. That's the point. Victoria was quiet for a moment. What if I commissioned you, paid you to illustrate something for me? Victoria. I'm serious. I have a project, something I've been thinking about for years but never had the right person to help with. You could do it. I don't take charity. It's not charity, it's business. She set down her coffee. I want to create a children's book about affordable housing, about families finding homes and buildings designed to actually help them thrive. It needs illustrations that feel real, that show diverse families in spaces that matter. You could do that. Noah stared at her. You're serious? Completely. I'll pay you your freelance rate. More, actually, because this matters to me, and you'd keep all the creative control. Why me? Because you understand what it's like to need a home, not just a house. Because your work has heart. And because I trust you to tell the truth instead of what you think I want to hear. Noah's mind raced. A commission like that could cover 2 months of bills, 3 if he was careful. It could give him breathing room he hadn't had in years. I'd need to see a contract, he said carefully. Something official. Of course. I'll have my lawyer draft it this week. And I want final approval on everything. No corporate oversight. Done. They shook hands, and Noah felt the shift in the air between them. This was real. A real project with real money and real implications for his life. Thank you, he said quietly. Thank you for saying yes. Victoria checked her watch. I should go. It's getting late. Noah walked her to the door, suddenly reluctant for the evening to end. Same time Thursday? I'll be here. What should I expect? Grocery shopping. The glamorous life. Victoria laughed. I can't wait. She left, and Noah stood in his doorway listening to her footsteps fade up the stairs. When he finally closed the door, the apartment felt emptier than usual. He checked on Emma, still sleeping, rabbit clutched tight, then returned to his laptop. But instead of working on the current project, he opened a new file and started sketching. Ideas for Victoria's book, families, homes, spaces that mattered. He worked until 2 a.m., energy he didn't know he had pouring into the drawings. Thursday came. Victoria showed up at 10 wearing jeans again, hair in a ponytail, looking more relaxed than she had on Saturday. Emma greeted her like an old friend. We're going to the store, Emma announced. I heard. I'm very excited. Noah shot Victoria a look. You're excited about grocery shopping? I've never been. How have you never been grocery shopping? I have people who do that. Or I order delivery. Or I eat at restaurants. Emma's eyes went wide. You eat at restaurants every day? Most days, yes. That's so cool. It's actually kind of boring, Victoria said. I'd rather learn how to cook. They walked to the grocery store 6 blocks away, Emma between them holding both their hands. The morning was crisp and clear, the city alive with its usual chaos. Noah pointed out landmarks as they walked. The bodega where he bought coffee, the library where they went for story time, the park where Emma learned to ride a bike. You know everyone, Victoria observed. Small neighborhood. You see the same people enough times, you start to recognize faces. At the grocery store, Victoria stared at the endless aisles like she'd entered a foreign country. Noah grabbed a cart and started navigating while Emma rode in the front, calling out items they needed. We're making spaghetti tonight, Noah explained. Cheap, easy, Emma actually eats it. He grabbed pasta, sauce, ground beef, checking prices automatically. Victoria watched him compare brands, calculate costs, make decisions based on budget rather than preference. How much do you spend on groceries? She asked. Depends on the week, maybe $70, $80. I try to make it last 10 days. Victoria's expression shifted, not judgment, but something like horror. That's not much for 2 people. It's enough if you're smart about it. Buy staples, cook from scratch. Don't waste anything. They moved through the store, Emma adding requests that Noah vetted based on cost and nutritional value. Victoria asked questions about everything, why he chose this brand over that one, how he knew what was a good deal, what he did when Emma wanted something they couldn't afford. I tell her no, Noah said simply. And I explain why. She's learning that money is finite. In the cereal aisle, Emma pointed at a brightly colored box. Can we get this? Noah checked the price. That's $7 for a box of sugar, baby. We can get oatmeal for $3 that'll last 2 weeks. Emma's face fell, but she nodded. Okay. Victoria looked like she wanted to buy the cereal herself. Noah caught her eye and shook his head slightly. She understood. At checkout, the total came to $73. Noah paid with his debit card, mentally adjusting his budget for the week. Victoria insisted on buying Emma a candy bar from the rack, a small indulgence that made Emma's face light up. They walked home carrying bags, Emma skipping ahead with her candy. Victoria seemed thoughtful. That was harder than I expected, she said. What was? Watching you calculate every purchase. Seeing Emma want something and having to say no. It made it real. This is real. This is how most people live. I know, I just didn't understand it before. Back at the apartment, they put away groceries while Emma played with her new books in the living room. Noah showed Victoria how he organized the fridge to make things last, how he prepped vegetables to save time later. You're very efficient, Victoria observed. I have to be. There's no margin for error. She was quiet for a moment, then, I want to show you something. This weekend. If you're free Saturday afternoon. What kind of something? A place that matters to me. Somewhere I haven't shown anyone else. Noah studied her. Why me? Because you're honest, and because I think you'll understand. Emma has a birthday party Saturday at 2. What about after? Say 4 o'clock? Noah hesitated. This felt like crossing a line, from showing her his world to entering hers. But curiosity won. Okay, 4 o'clock. Victoria smiled, and it was different from her other smiles. More genuine. Thank you. They spent the afternoon cooking spaghetti together. Noah taught Victoria how to brown meat properly, how to season sauce, how to test pasta for doneness. She was a quick learner, asking questions and taking mental notes. Emma set the table without being asked, proudly showing Victoria where everything went. They ate together again, the conversation easy now, comfortable. After dinner, Victoria helped with bath time and bedtime stories. By the time Emma was asleep, it was after 8, and Noah realized Victoria had been there for 10 hours. I should let you work, she said, noticing his laptop. I should work, Noah agreed, but he didn't move toward it. They sat on the couch with tea this time, the evening stretching ahead. Rain threatened outside again, the sky gone dark and heavy. Can I ask you something personal? Victoria said. Seems to be our thing. Do you ever regret it? Having Emma so young, the divorce, ending up here? Noah thought about it. I regret how things ended with Sarah. I regret that Emma doesn't have the stability I wanted to give her. But Emma herself? Never. She's the best thing I've ever done. You're a good father. I'm doing my best. Some days that feels like enough. Some days it doesn't. The fact that you care whether it's enough makes you better than most. What about you? Noah asked. Do you regret taking over the company? Victoria stared into her tea. I regret losing myself in it. I regret that I can't remember the last time I did something just because I wanted to. I regret that I'm 30 years old and I can't name a single real friend. That's fixable. Is it? You're here, aren't you? She smiled. I am. The contract for the children's book arrived Friday morning. Official, detailed, generous. Noah signed it during his lunch break and sent it back, feeling something like hope unfurl in his chest. Saturday's birthday party was chaos. 12 6-year-olds, a pizza place with arcade games, noise that made Noah's head pound. Emma had the time of her life. Noah survived on coffee and the knowledge that it would end eventually. At 4 o'clock, Victoria pulled up in front of Noah's building in a car that probably cost more than he'd earn in 5 years. The driver opened the door for him. This is weird, Noah said, sliding into leather seats. Wait until you see where we're going. They drove for 20 minutes, leaving Manhattan, crossing into Brooklyn. The neighborhood's changed. Industrial buildings, warehouses, empty lots waiting for development. Finally, the car stopped in front of a nondescript brick building with no signage. Victoria led him inside, using a key card to access an elevator that opened directly into a vast loft space. Noah stepped out and stopped. The entire floor was filled with architectural models, buildings of every size and shape rendered in meticulous detail. Community centers, apartment complexes, schools, parks, each one labeled with notes about materials, costs, accessibility features. What is this? Noah breathed. My real work. Victoria moved between the models like a curator in a gallery. Everything I've designed over the past 8 years. Projects that will never get built because they're not profitable enough. Because the board wants luxury condos, not affordable housing. Because helping people doesn't generate the returns my family expects. Noah approached a model of a family housing complex, 4 buildings arranged around a central courtyard with a playground, community garden, rooftop spaces. This is incredible. This was supposed to be my first project after graduate school. I had the land, I had the financing, and then my father got sick and everything stopped. Victoria touched the model gently. Sometimes I come here and pretend I'm still that person, the one who thought she could change things. You still can. Can I? I've been running the company for 3 years. I haven't built a single thing that matters. Noah turned to face her. Then stop running the company. It's not that simple. It is, though. You just said you're 30 years old with no real friends and work you don't care about. How much money do you need? How much power? At what point is it enough to just do what you actually want? Victoria's eyes glistened. You make it sound easy. It's not easy, but it's simple. You choose. Every day you choose what matters more. She looked around the room at years of abandoned dreams rendered in foam and balsa wood. I don't know if I remember how to choose for myself. Then start small. Build one thing. Just one. Prove to yourself you still can. The board would never approve it. So don't ask permission. Victoria laughed, but it was shaky. You're dangerous, Noah Bennett. I'm practical. There's a difference. They spent another hour in the loft, Victoria explaining each project, the research, the design philosophy, the dreams embedded in every model. Noah listened and asked questions and saw her come alive in a way she hadn't before. On the drive back, Victoria was quiet. Thank you, she finally said as they pulled up to Noah's building. For what? For seeing me, the real me, not the version everyone else wants. Noah met her eyes. That person in the loft? She's worth knowing. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. The beginning of something neither of them had names for yet. Same time Tuesday? Victoria asked. Actually, Emma has a field trip. I'm going as a chaperone. You want to come? To a field trip? Natural History Museum. Bunch of first graders. Chaos incarnate. Victoria grinned. I wouldn't miss it. Noah climbed out of the car and watched it pull away, Victoria's face visible in the back window until they turned the corner. He stood there longer than necessary, feeling the shape of his life shifting in ways he couldn't quite name. Inside, Emma was already asleep, worn out from the party. Noah kissed her forehead and returned to his laptop, pulling up the sketches for Victoria's book project. But his mind kept wandering to that loft full of dreams, to Victoria's face when she talked about buildings that mattered, to the question she hadn't asked but he'd heard anyway. What if I'm not strong enough to choose? Noah knew something about that kind of fear, about the gap between wanting and doing, about the paralysis that came from too many people depending on you to stay exactly as you were. But he also knew something about choosing anyway, about small acts of rebellion that added up to a different life. He worked until midnight, the apartment quiet except for rain starting against the windows. Somewhere above him, Victoria was in her penthouse. Below him, the city breathed its endless rhythm. And between them, something was building that neither of them fully understood yet. Something that started with anger and insomnia, but was becoming something else entirely. Something that felt dangerous and necessary and real. The field trip to the Natural History Museum turned into the day everything changed, though Noah wouldn't realize it until much later. Victoria showed up at the school at 8:30 Tuesday morning wearing jeans and sneakers that still looked too expensive but were at least attempting normality. 23 first graders stared at her like she'd descended from another planet. "Who's that?" one kid whispered loudly. "That's Emma's friend," another responded. "She's pretty. She looks rich." Emma grabbed Victoria's hand possessively. "She's my friend, and my daddy's friend." The teacher, Mrs. Patterson, gave Noah a curious look but said nothing. They loaded onto the bus, 3 parent chaperones plus Victoria, 23 kids, and enough energy to power a small city. Noah ended up sitting across the aisle from Victoria, who looked slightly terrified. "You okay?" he asked over the noise. "I've negotiated million-dollar deals with less anxiety. Just remember, they can smell fear." A kid 2 rows back threw a juice box. Mrs. Patterson confiscated it without breaking stride in her explanation of museum rules. Victoria's eyes widened. Welcome to elementary school field trips, Noah said. The museum was packed with other school groups, all of them operating at maximum volume. Their class got name tags and buddy assignments. Emma and her best friend Madison stuck to Victoria like glue, peppering her with questions about everything. Do you have a dog? No, I travel too much. Do you have a boyfriend? Victoria glanced at Noah. No. Why not? Madison, Mrs. Patterson interrupted. Personal questions aren't polite. Sorry, Miss Hale. They started with the dinosaur exhibit. Noah had been here dozens of times, knew every display, but watching Victoria experience it through the kids' eyes made it new again. She knelt down to Emma's level, reading every placard, answering questions seriously. How big were T-Rex teeth? Emma asked. Victoria checked the display. About 12 inches. Like a banana. That's huge. That's terrifying, Victoria agreed. They moved through the exhibits in controlled chaos. Noah spent most of his time doing head counts and preventing kids from touching things they shouldn't. But he kept noticing Victoria, how she listened when kids talked, how she never talked down to them, how she seemed more relaxed here than anywhere else he'd seen her. During lunch in the museum cafeteria, Emma and Madison convinced Victoria to sit with them instead of the adults. Noah watched from the next table as Victoria attempted to eat a sandwich while fielding rapid-fire questions about her life. Do you live in a castle? Kind of. My apartment is very big. Do you have servants? I have people who help me, yes. Are you a princess? Victoria laughed. No, just a regular person. You don't look regular, Madison observed with the brutal honesty of 6-year-olds. Well, I'm trying to be more regular. Emma leaned against Victoria's shoulder. I like you anyway. Something in Victoria's expression cracked open. She wrapped an arm around Emma. I like you too, kiddo. Noah's chest tightened watching them. This was getting complicated. Emma was attached. He was something. And Victoria would eventually return to her real life, leaving them with the aftermath. After lunch, they hit the ocean hall. The kids pressed against the glass of the massive aquarium, pointing at fish. Noah stood next to Victoria, both of them watching the kids more than the exhibits. Thank you for letting me come, Victoria said quietly. Thank you for coming. Most people wouldn't voluntarily spend their Tuesday with 23 first graders. I can't remember the last time I had this much fun. Really? This is fun for you? It's real. Nobody wants anything from me except to answer questions about dinosaurs. Nobody's calculating what I can do for them. It's just simple. Simple is good sometimes. Simple is something I forgot existed. A kid crashed into Noah's legs, apologized breathlessly, and took off after his buddy. Noah steadied himself and caught Victoria smiling at him. What? You're good at this. The dad thing. It's not just Emma. All these kids trust you. I've been doing this for 3 years. You learn to project calm even when you're screaming internally. I project authority even when I'm terrified internally. Maybe we're not so different. Before Noah could respond, Mrs. Patterson announced it was time to head back. The kids groaned but lined up with practiced efficiency. On the bus ride home, Emma fell asleep against Victoria's shoulder, exhausted from the excitement. Victoria looked down at her with such tenderness that Noah had to look away. They arrived back at school at 3. Parents collected kids in clusters of SUVs and sedans. Noah walked Emma and Victoria to the subway entrance. That was the best field trip ever, Emma announced. I'm glad you had fun, sweetheart. Can Victoria come to dinner? Noah hesitated. They'd been doing this for 2 weeks now, these carefully controlled interactions in his world. Dinner felt different, more domestic, more dangerous. Victoria probably has plans. I don't, Victoria said quickly. If the invitation's open, I'd love to come. Emma cheered. Noah tried not to think about what he was agreeing to. At the apartment, Emma immediately changed into play clothes and demanded to show Victoria her room. Noah started on dinner, chicken stir-fry again because it was cheap and reliable, while listening to them talk in the other room. This is my collection of rocks, Emma said seriously. I found them all myself. These are very impressive rocks. That one's from the park. That one's from the beach when Daddy took me last summer. And that one I found in the subway station, but Daddy said I shouldn't pick up subway things, but I already had it. Victoria's laugh carried through the apartment. Noah stirred vegetables and tried to ignore how right this felt. How natural, how completely unsustainable. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Boss wants to see you first thing tomorrow. Something about the Hale Property Group account. Noah stared at the message. They didn't have a Hale Property Group account. He typed back, "What account?" "No idea. Just said to be ready to discuss opportunities." "You know something about this?" Noah's stomach dropped. He absolutely knew something about this. The firm had been trying to land Hale Property Group as a client for years, and now Noah was having dinner with Victoria Hale 3 times a week. His boss, Richard Summers, wasn't stupid. If he'd somehow found out about Noah's connection to Victoria, he'd absolutely try to exploit it. "Daddy, dinner ready?" Emma called. Noah pocketed his phone. 5 minutes. They ate at the small table, Emma talking nonstop about the museum while Noah tried to focus on the conversation instead of tomorrow's meeting. Victoria noticed his distraction. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just work stuff, nothing important." But it felt important. It felt like the beginning of something he'd been dreading since this whole thing started. The moment where Victoria's world and his couldn't stay separate anymore. After dinner, Victoria helped clean up while Emma played in the living room. They worked in silence, the domestic rhythm familiar now. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said, drying a plate. "Sure." "Why haven't you asked me for anything? Money, connections, favors? Everyone else does, eventually." Noah turned off the water. "Because I don't want anything from you." "Everyone wants something. I want you to be honest. I want you to show up when you say you will because Emma's starting to care about you, and I don't want her disappointed. I want you to stop apologizing for who you are and start figuring out who you want to be. But I don't want your money or your connections." Victoria set down the dish towel. "You're serious? Why is that surprising?" "Because, in my experience, everyone has an angle. My angle is that my daughter gets attached to people and I'm trying to protect her, that's it. I wouldn't hurt her. Or you. Not on purpose, maybe, but what happens when you get bored of playing normal? When you go back to your real life and we're just a story you tell at dinner parties?" Victoria's face went pale. "Is that what you think this is?" "I don't know what this is. It's friendship. It's the first real thing I've had in years, and I'm not playing at anything." Noah wanted to believe her, but he'd watched people make promises before. Sarah had promised to stay. His father had promised to help when Emma was born. People said things they meant in the moment, and then life got complicated. "I should go," Victoria said quietly. "Thank you for letting me come today." She said goodbye to Emma, who extracted a promise for another visit soon. Noah walked her to the door. "I meant what I said," Victoria told him. "This matters to me. You and Emma matter to me." "Then prove it. Keep showing up." "I will." But after she left, Noah stood in his doorway, wondering if he'd just made everything worse. Pushing people away was safer. Keeping walls up meant Emma didn't get hurt. And yet here he was, letting Victoria Hale into their lives like she belonged there. The next morning, Noah arrived at work to find Richard Summers waiting at his desk. "Bennett, my office, now." Noah followed him, dread pooling in his gut. Richard's office was all glass and chrome, designed to intimidate. Noah had been in here exactly twice, once when he was hired, once when he got a cost of living raise that barely counted. "Sit," Richard said. Noah sat. "I'm going to cut to the chase. I know you have a relationship with Victoria Hale." Noah's blood went cold. "How?" "Someone saw you two at the museum yesterday. Sent me a photo. Victoria Hale, one of the most powerful women in New York, spending her Tuesday with a junior designer and a bunch of kids." Richard leaned back in his chair. "So I'm going to ask you directly, what's the nature of your relationship?" "We're friends." "Friends?" Richard laughed. "Noah, people like Victoria Hale don't have friends like you. They have associates, business contacts, strategic relationships. So what is she getting from you?" "Nothing. We're just friends." "Well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to leverage that friendship to get us a meeting with Hale Property Group. We've been trying to land them for 5 years. You hand us that account, and there's a promotion in it for you. Senior designer, 30% raise, real creative control." Noah's mind raced. 30% more would change everything. He could cut back on freelance work, spend more time with Emma, actually sleep. But it would mean using Victoria, exactly what she'd been afraid of all along. "I can't do that," Noah said. Richard's expression hardened. Excuse me? I can't use a personal relationship for business. It's not right. Not right? Noah, this is how the industry works. You use the connections you have. You think anyone gets ahead by being noble? I don't care. I won't do it. Then let me be clear. You're a junior designer because you don't understand how things work. You want to stay there? Fine. Keep your principles. But don't expect to move up in this company without playing the game. Is that a threat? It's reality. Think about it. You have until Friday to bring me a meeting. Noah stood up. No. What? I said no. I'm not doing it. He walked out before Richard could respond, his hand shaking. Back at his desk, Marcus leaned over. Dude, you okay? You look like you're about to punch something. I might be unemployed by Friday. What happened? Noah explained in terse sentences. Marcus whistled low. Man, that's rough. But you did the right thing. Did I? A 30% raise would change my life. At what cost? Your friend's trust? Your integrity? That's not you. Noah dropped his head into his hands. I hate that you're right. He tried to work but couldn't focus. By lunch, the story had spread through the office. Noah Bennett had a connection to Victoria Hale and refused to use it. Half the people thought he was an idiot. The other half thought he was lying about knowing her at all. At 3 o'clock, Victoria texted, Can we talk? Noah stepped outside to call her. Hey, I need to tell you something. Victoria's voice was tight. There are photos of us. From yesterday. Someone sold them to a gossip site. They went up an hour ago. What kind of photos? You, me, and Emma at the museum? The headline is Billionaire Heiress's Secret Family? It's already going viral. Noah's stomach dropped. Emma's in them? Her face is blurred, but yes, I'm so sorry. I should have been more careful. I should have realized people would be watching. Noah leaned against the building, trying to breathe. It's not your fault. It is. This is my world. I know how it works. I just wanted one day where it didn't matter. What happens now? My publicist is working on it. We'll issue a statement. Say you're a friend, nothing romantic, nothing scandalous. It'll blow over in a few days. Will it? Victoria was quiet. I don't know. Noah, if this makes things harder for you, it already has. He told her about Richard's ultimatum. He can't do that. That's business. You said it yourself. Everyone has an angle. You don't. Which is apparently why I'm still a junior designer going nowhere. Noah, I need to think. I'll call you later. He hung up and stared at the street, watching people rush past with their own problems, their own complications. When had his life gotten so messy? That evening, Emma asked why her teacher had asked about the pictures on the internet. Noah had to explain that sometimes people take photos without asking, and that Victoria was his friend, and that's all anyone needed to know. Am I in trouble? Emma asked, eyes wide. No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. Is Victoria in trouble? Kind of, but we'll fix it. Do we have to stop being her friend? Noah pulled Emma into a hug. I don't know yet. After Emma went to bed, Noah's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Mr. Bennett, this is Margaret Hale, Victoria's mother. Noah sat up straight. Mrs. Hale, hello. I'll be direct. I saw the photographs. I need to understand what your intentions are with my daughter. We're friends, that's all. Mr. Bennett, I've spent 30 years protecting my daughter from people who want to use her. I need to know if you're one of them. I'm not. I didn't ask for any of this. Then why are you spending so much time with her? Because she asked me to. Because she said she wanted to see what real life looked like. Because I think she's lonely, and I understand what that feels like. Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Victoria tells me you refuse to help your employer secure a meeting with her company. That's right. Why? Because friendship isn't currency. Another pause. You're either very noble or very stupid. Probably both. To his surprise, Margaret laughed. Victoria said you were honest. She wasn't wrong. Her voice softened slightly. My daughter has had very few people in her life who didn't want something from her. If you're genuine, Mr. Bennett, then I'm grateful she found you. But if you hurt her, I will make your life very difficult. Understood. Good. Good night, Mr. Bennett. She hung up. Noah sat in the darkness of his living room, trying to process the fact that he'd just been vetted by a billionaire's mother like a teenager taking her daughter to prom. His phone buzzed again. Victoria. I'm sorry about my mother. She means well. Noah typed back. She's protective, I get it. Are we okay? Noah stared at the message. Were they okay? His boss wanted to use her. Her world was crashing into his. Photographers were following them. His daughter was getting attached to someone who might disappear. But he thought about Victoria on the bus, answering Emma's questions with patience and humor. Victoria in his kitchen, learning to wash dishes by hand. Victoria in that loft full of dreams she'd stopped believing in. We're okay. But we need to talk. In person. When? Tomorrow night. After Emma's asleep. Come down. I'll be there. Noah worked on the children's book illustrations until midnight, trying to focus on something he could control. The drawings were coming together, families finding homes, communities being built, spaces designed with care. It was some of his best work, fueled by a kind of hope he'd almost forgotten. Wednesday crawled by. Work was tense. Richard barely looked at him. Colleagues whispered. Noah kept his head down and counted the hours until Friday, when he'd either be fired or have to quit on principle. At 7 that evening, after Emma was asleep, Noah heard a soft knock on his door. Victoria stood there in sweats and a hoodie, hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked exhausted. Hi, she said. Hi, come in. They sat on the couch with tea, both of them careful with space and words. I talked to my publicist, Victoria said. The story's dying down. By next week, no one will remember. That's good. And I talked to my lawyer about your work situation. If your boss retaliates, you have grounds for a lawsuit. I can't afford a lawsuit, Victoria. I could... No. Noah set down his tea. This is exactly the problem. You throw money at things to fix them, but some things can't be fixed with money. Then what do? We figure out what this is. Because right now we're playing at something without defining it. And that's not fair to anyone, especially Emma. Victoria pulled her knees up to her chest, looking younger than 30. What do you want it to be? I don't know. I know I like having you in our lives. I know Emma's happier when you're around. I know you make me think about things differently. But I also know that your world and mine are going to keep crashing into each other until something breaks. So we stop. We go back to being neighbors who don't interact. Is that what you want? No. Victoria's voice cracked. I don't want to lose you and Emma. You're the only real thing in my life. Then something has to change. Not just you visiting my world. That's not sustainable. Either you commit to being part of our lives for real, or we end this before Emma gets more attached. What does committing for real look like? Noah thought about it. It looks like you making choices that reflect what you actually want instead of what everyone expects. It looks like you deciding whether those models in that loft are going to stay dreams or become buildings. It looks like you figuring out who Victoria Hale is when she's not trying to live up to her father's legacy. That's terrifying. Yeah, but so is living half a life. So is... Victoria was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I have a board meeting Friday. They're voting on a new development project. Luxury condos on a lot I've had my eye on for years. High profit margins. Everything they want. But I've been designing an affordable housing complex for that lot. 300 units for working families. Community center. Green space. Everything that neighborhood actually needs. If I proposed it to the board, they'd vote it down immediately. What if you didn't ask permission? The lot is owned by a subsidiary I technically control. I could approve the project myself, allocate the budget, start construction. By the time the board found out, it would be too late to stop without massive losses. Would they fire you? Probably, or force me out. My mother still holds significant shares. She could back me, but it would mean a fight with the board. A public fight. Noah reached for her hand. Is it worth it? Building something that actually matters? Yes. But losing everything in the process? I don't know. You won't lose everything. You'll lose a company you don't even want to run. You'll lose board members who don't respect you anyway. But you'll still have yourself. And you'll have built something real. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, but it's a choice. And it's yours to make. Victoria squeezed his hand. If I actually do this, It's going to be messy. There will be press, lawyers, probably more photos of us if we keep seeing each other. Can you handle that? Can you handle grocery shopping and field trips and the boring reality of what my life actually is? I love your boring reality. Then we figure it out together. Victoria leaned her head against his shoulder. They sat like that for a long time, not saying anything, just breathing. I'm scared, she finally admitted. Me too. But you think I should do it anyway? I think you'll regret it forever if you don't. She pulled back to look at him. How did you get so wise? Single parenting. It either makes you wise or insane, sometimes both. Victoria smiled, and it was real, the first genuinely happy expression he'd seen on her face. Okay, I'll do it. I'll propose the affordable housing project at the Friday meeting. Yeah? Yeah, and when they lose their minds, I'll remind them that I control that subsidiary and they can't stop me. That's my girl. The words came out before Noah could stop them. Victoria's expression shifted, surprised, pleased, something else he couldn't quite name. Am I? She asked quietly. Your girl? Noah's heart hammered. This was the edge of something, the point where they either stepped back or jumped. Do you want to be? I think I've wanted to be since you yelled at me in your pajamas at 2 a.m. That's a weird origin story. We're weird people. Noah laughed, and then he was kissing her, and she was kissing him back, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. This complicates things, Noah said. Everything's already complicated. Fair point, Victoria checked her watch. I should go. Emma might wake up. Yeah. They stood, neither wanting to move. At the door, Victoria turned back. Thank you for pushing me, for believing I could do this. Thank you for showing up, for Emma, for me. I'll see you Friday, after the meeting. I'll be here. One more kiss, and then she was gone, footsteps fading up the stairs to the penthouse. Noah locked the door and leaned against it, trying to process everything that had just happened. He'd just started something with a woman who lived in a completely different world, who was about to blow up her entire life, who made his heart race and his practical side scream warnings. But for the first time in 3 years, Noah felt like he was living instead of just surviving, and that had to mean something. Friday morning, Noah arrived at work expecting the worst. Richard called him into the office at 9. I'm giving you one more chance, Bennett. Get me that meeting with Hale Property Group or you're done here. Noah took a breath. Then I'm done here. You're quitting? You're asking me to compromise my integrity for a promotion I don't even want. So yeah, I'm done. You realize you're throwing away your career? I'm choosing to have a career I can actually be proud of. There's a difference. Noah packed his desk in a box, 3 years of work reduced to personal items and a few reference books. Marcus helped him carry it out. You're insane, Marcus said, but I respect it. Thanks, I think. What are you going to do? Freelance full-time, finish Victoria's book project, figure it out as I go. You have enough saved for that? Not really, but I'll make it work. Because that's what he did. He made things work. That afternoon, while Emma was at school, Noah got a text from Victoria. It's done. I proposed the project. Board went nuclear. I approved it anyway. Effective immediately, I'm stepping down as CEO. Noah called her. Are you okay? I'm terrified and exhilarated and probably about to be disowned. But I did it, Noah. I actually did it. I'm proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. Yeah, you could have. You just needed someone to remind you who you actually are. Can I come over tonight? I need to be somewhere real. Of course. Dinner at 6. That evening, Victoria showed up with takeout from the Thai place down the street and a bottle of wine. Emma was thrilled to see her. They ate on the floor of the living room like a picnic, Emma chattering about her day while Noah and Victoria exchanged looks that said everything words couldn't. After Emma went to bed, they opened the wine and sat on the couch, Victoria's head on Noah's shoulder. My mother called, Victoria said. She's backing me. Said it's time the company remembered what it was built for. That's good. The board is furious. Some of them are threatening to sue. But I don't care. For the first time in 3 years, I don't care what they think. What are you going to do now? Build. Actually build something that matters. And I was thinking, she sat up to look at him. I could use a creative director. Someone who understands design and people and what communities actually need. The pay wouldn't be anywhere near what you could make at a big firm, but it would be enough. And it would be yours. Real creative control. Noah stared at her. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a partnership. Help me build this. Not just the housing project, but everything that comes after. Make it something real. Victoria, before you say no, think about it. Think about building spaces that actually help families like yours. Think about doing work that matters instead of logo redesigns for juice companies. Noah thought about Emma, about stability, about taking risks when he had someone depending on him. But he also thought about that loft full of dreams, about Victoria's face when she talked about architecture that mattered, about the possibility of doing work he could actually be proud of. I'm in, he said. Victoria's face lit up. Really? Really? But on one condition. Anything. We do this right. Contracts, clear boundaries between work and personal. I'm not going to be the guy who got his job by sleeping with the boss. Victoria laughed. Technically, you're sleeping with your business partner. We haven't slept together yet. Yet? Yet. She kissed him, and it felt like a promise, like the beginning of something they were building together, brick by brick, choice by choice. When she finally left that night, Noah stood at his window watching the city lights. Somewhere out there, his old life was ending, and somewhere closer, something new was beginning. He thought about his father, who'd told him to play it safe, about Sarah, who'd left because safe wasn't enough, about every choice that had led him to this moment, broke, scared, hopeful, and more alive than he'd felt in years. Emma appeared at his elbow, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Daddy, you okay? Noah scooped her up. Yeah, baby, I'm good. I like Victoria. Me too. Is she going to stay? I think so, for as long as we'll have her. Emma rested her head on his shoulder. Good. She makes you smile more. Out of the mouths of 6-year-olds. Noah carried Emma back to bed, tucked her in, and returned to his laptop. The illustrations for Victoria's book were nearly done, but now they felt like more than just a commission. They felt like a blueprint for everything they were about to build. Noah worked until dawn, fueled by coffee and possibility. And when the sun came up over Manhattan, painting his cramped apartment in gold, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The hope lasted exactly 3 days before reality came crashing back in. Monday morning, Noah woke to 17 missed calls and a voicemail from his landlord informing him that the building had been sold. New owners. Renovations planned. Everyone needed to vacate within 60 days or sign new leases at double the current rent. He sat on the edge of his bed, phone in hand, doing math that didn't work no matter how many times he recalculated. Even with Victoria's partnership offer, there was no way he could afford twice his current rent while getting a new business off the ground. Freelance income was unpredictable, savings were nearly depleted, and finding a new affordable apartment in Manhattan with Emma's school district might as well require an act of magic. Emma padded into his room, already dressed for school. Daddy, we're going to be late. I know, baby. Give me 2 minutes. He got her breakfast and packed her lunch on autopilot, his mind spinning through impossible options. They could move to Brooklyn or Queens, but that meant changing Emma's school, longer commutes, uprooting the small stability they'd managed to build. They could find a smaller place, but smaller than 850 square feet meant Emma wouldn't have her own bedroom. On the subway to school, Emma noticed his distraction. Are you worried about something? Just adult stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. Is it money? Madison says when her parents get quiet, it's always money. Noah looked at his too observant daughter. It's always something with money, yeah. But we'll figure it out. We always do. Emma nodded, accepting this with the resignation of a kid who'd learned early that life wasn't always fair. That acceptance broke Noah's heart a little more. After dropping Emma off, Noah headed to the loft space Victoria was converting into their new office. She was already there, surrounded by architectural plans and fabric samples, looking more energized than he'd ever seen her. Morning, she said brightly, then stopped. What's wrong? Building got sold. Rent's doubling. We have 60 days to move. Victoria's face fell. Noah, I'm so sorry. Not your fault. He set down his bag and tried to focus on the plan spread across the table. What am I looking at? The community center layout for the housing project. I want your input on the children's spaces. She paused. But we should talk about your housing situation first. Nothing to talk about. I'll find something. What if you didn't have to? Noah looked up sharply. What does that mean? The penthouse. It's absurdly large, 4 bedrooms I never use. You and Emma could stay there while you look for a place. Or longer, as long as you need. Absolutely not. Noah, I'm not moving into your penthouse. That would be... He struggled for words. That's not how this works. How what works? We're together now, aren't we? People who are together help each other. We've been together for less than a week. Moving in together is insane. Is it more insane than you and Emma being homeless? We're not going to be homeless. I'll figure something out. Victoria crossed her arms. Why are you being stubborn about this? Because I don't need you to rescue me. I need to handle my own problems. This isn't about rescuing you. It's about having space I'm not using while you're struggling to find affordable housing in the middle of a crisis. It's practical. It's charity. It's not... Victoria stopped, took a breath. Okay. What if I made it official? You pay rent, market rate for a 2-bedroom in that building, which is way less than what new ownership is charging. I still couldn't afford it. Then we make it part of your compensation package. Subsidized housing as a business partner benefit. Noah laughed without humor. You're really reaching here. I'm trying to help someone I care about. And I'm trying to maintain some dignity in a relationship where you have billions and I have maxed out credit cards. The words hung between them, sharp and honest. Victoria's expression shifted from frustration to understanding. This is about more than the apartment, she said quietly. Of course it is. Every time you try to fix something with money, it reminds me how completely unequal this relationship is. You can buy buildings. I can barely afford Emma's school supplies. That gap doesn't just disappear because we're sleeping together. So what do? I just watch you struggle when I have resources to help? You let me solve my own problems. You trust that I can handle my life without being rescued. Even if handling it means Emma loses her school, her friends, her stability? It was a low blow, and they both knew it. Noah's jaw tightened. That's not fair. Neither is watching you destroy yourself trying to prove you don't need help. Victoria moved closer. I'm not trying to make you feel small, Noah. I'm trying to be a partner. Partners help each other. In your world, help looks like money. In mine, it looks like showing up and doing the work together. Those aren't the same thing. Then teach me. Tell me what help looks like for you. Noah wanted to stay angry, but she was trying, really trying, and his pride didn't change the reality that in 60 days he and Emma needed somewhere to live. I need to think about it, he said finally. Okay, but the offer stands, no pressure, no strings, just space if you need it. They worked through the morning in tense silence, reviewing plans and making notes. The community center design was brilliant. Thoughtful spaces for after-school programs, a teaching kitchen, flexible rooms that could serve multiple purposes. It was exactly what that neighborhood needed. Around noon, Noah's phone rang. Unknown number again. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Bennett, this is Diane Chen from The Times. I'm writing a piece about Victoria Hale's new affordable housing initiative, and I understand you're her creative partner. Do you have time for some questions? Noah's stomach dropped. How did you get this number? Public records. Your name is listed on the LLC filing. I just want to understand your role in the project and your relationship with Ms. Hale. No comment. He hung up. Victoria looked over. Who is that? Reporter. Asking about us and the project. They found out fast. Did you expect them not to? I guess I hoped we'd have more time before this became a story. Within an hour, there were 3 more calls. Noah turned off his phone. Victoria did the same. But by evening, when Noah picked up Emma from school, 2 photographers were waiting outside. Mr. Bennett, is it true you're living with Victoria Hale? Are you Emma's father? How long have you been in a relationship? Noah grabbed Emma's hand and pushed past them, his heart racing. Emma looked scared. Daddy, who are those people? Nobody important. Just ignore them. But at the apartment building, there were more, cameras flashing, Questions shouted. Noah shielded Emma and got them inside, but the damage was done. Emma was shaking. Why are they taking pictures of us? Because Victoria's famous and they think we're interesting. We're not. They'll get bored and go away. I don't like it. I know, baby. Me neither. He made dinner while Emma did homework, both of them jumpy at every sound in the hallway. When Victoria knocked at 7, Noah checked through the peephole before letting her in. There are photographers downstairs, she said. I'm so sorry. My publicist is trying to get them to leave, but they're on public property. This is going to be our life now, isn't it? Noah asked. Cameras and questions and strangers wanting pieces of us. It'll die down. It always does. When? After they've gotten enough pictures of my daughter? After they've dug into every part of my life? Emma emerged from her room. Victoria! She ran over for a hug and Victoria scooped her up. Hi, sweetheart. I heard you had a rough afternoon. There were scary people with cameras. I know. I'm sorry. They shouldn't have done that. Why do they care about us? Victoria looked at Noah, then back at Emma. Because sometimes when people do something new and different, other people get curious. But you didn't do anything wrong, and neither did your dad. The photographers will leave soon. Emma seemed satisfied with this answer. Noah wished he could be. After Emma went to bed, Noah and Victoria sat on the couch, both exhausted. I talked to my lawyer, Victoria said. We can get a restraining order if the photographers don't back off. Keep them away from Emma's school. And then what? They just wait somewhere else? Follow us to the park? The grocery store? I don't know, but I won't let them hurt Emma. You can't control this, Victoria. This is what happens when you're with someone famous. Your life becomes public property. Is that what you think? That this is my fault? I think this is the reality of your world, and I don't know if I can live in it. Victoria went very still. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we moved too fast. Maybe we didn't think through what this would actually mean. You want to end this. I want to protect my daughter. So do I. But you can't. Not really. Because as long as we're together, she's going to be a target. People are going to want pictures and stories and access to our lives, and I can't give that to them. I won't. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. So what do you want me to do? Walk away? Pretend the last month didn't happen? I want you to understand that this isn't just about us anymore. It's about Emma, and she comes first, always. I know that. You think I don't know that? Then you understand why I'm saying we need to slow down. Put some distance between us until things calm down. Distance? Victoria stood up. You mean break up? I mean take a step back. Figure out if we can actually make this work without destroying everything else in the process. I love you. The words came out raw, desperate. I know it's too soon and too fast and probably too much, but I love you. And I love Emma. And I don't want to lose this. Noah's chest tightened. I care about you too. But caring about someone doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it works. So you're giving up, just like that. I'm being realistic. No, you're being scared. You're running because things got hard. Things got hard? Victoria, there are photographers camped outside my building trying to get pictures of my 6-year-old daughter. My landlord is kicking me out. I just quit my job to go into business with someone I've known for a month. Hard doesn't begin to cover it. And I'm trying to help you through it. I don't want your help. I want my life back. The quiet, boring, simple life where my biggest problem was noise from the penthouse. The words landed like a slap. Victoria stepped back, her face crumpling. I should go, she said quietly. Victoria? No, you're right. This was a mistake. I came into your life and made everything complicated. I'm sorry. She left before Noah could say anything else. He stood in his empty apartment, the silence deafening, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. The next morning, the photographers were gone. So was Victoria's presence in his daily routine. No texts, no calls, no knock on the door at 10 a.m. Emma noticed immediately. Where's Victoria? She's busy with work. Is she mad at us? No, baby. She's just busy. But Emma was too smart for that. She went quiet, withdrawn, and Noah hated himself for putting that look in her eyes. The eviction notice arrived on Wednesday. Official, legal, undeniable. 60 days to vacate. Noah spent his lunch break looking at apartment listings and feeling his hope shrink with every search result. Everything affordable was either too far away or too small or required first, last, and security that he didn't have. Marcus called that evening. Dude, I saw you on page 6. You and Victoria Hale broke up? We were never really together. That's not what the photos look like. You okay? I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. Come get a drink. Noah found a babysitter and met Marcus at a bar in Midtown. Over beer and wings, he told the whole story, meeting Victoria, the field trips, the kiss, the business partnership, the photographers, the fight. So you broke up with her because you were scared, Marcus summarized. I broke up with her because I have a daughter to protect. From what? A woman who clearly loves both of you? Noah, man, you're my friend, so I'm going to be honest. You're self-sabotaging. I'm being practical. You're being terrified. Of what? That it might actually work? That you might actually be happy? That I'll get used to it, and then it'll fall apart, and Emma will be the one who suffers. Marcus shook his head. Emma's suffering now. She had someone who cared about her, and now that person's gone. You think that's better than taking a risk? At least this way I controlled when it ended. That's the most depressing thing I've ever heard you say. Noah drained his beer. I don't know how to do this, Marcus. I don't know how to be with someone who lives in a completely different world. How to make that work when I can barely make my own life work. Maybe you're not supposed to figure it out alone. Maybe that's the whole point of having a partner. Noah went home and couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Victoria in that loft full of dreams, about her face when Emma hugged her, about the way she'd said I love you like it was both a gift and a plea. Thursday morning, he took Emma to school and found Victoria waiting outside. Hi, she said nervously. Emma ran to her immediately. You came back! Victoria hugged her tight. I missed you. I missed you too. Daddy said you were busy, but I knew he was lying. Victoria looked at Noah over Emma's head. Your dad doesn't lie. I was busy. But I'm here now, if that's okay. Emma nodded enthusiastically and dragged Victoria toward the school building, chattering about everything Victoria had missed in 3 days. Noah followed, not sure what was happening but not wanting to interrupt. After Emma went inside, Victoria turned to him. Can we talk? Yeah, there's a coffee shop around the corner. They sat in a back booth, both nursing coffee. Neither of them was really drinking. I've been thinking, Victoria started, about what you said, about how I try to fix everything with money. You're right. That's what I know. That's how I was raised to solve problems. Victoria, let me finish. I don't know how to be poor. I don't know what it's like to worry about rent or groceries or any of the things you deal with every day. But I want to learn. Not because I think it's charming or interesting, but because I want to understand you, really understand what your life is like. That's not... And I've been thinking about the penthouse offer. You were right about that too. It was me trying to throw money at a problem. So here's a different proposal. She pulled out a folder. I talked to my lawyer. We set up a limited partnership for the housing project. You own 40%. I own 60%. But you have full creative control and equal say in all major decisions. Noah opened the folder. The contract was real, detailed, legally binding. The partnership pays you a salary, Victoria continued. Market rate for a creative director at a firm your size. No special treatment, no charity, just fair compensation for your work. And there's a housing stipend, standard for employees in high-cost cities. You can use it however you want. New apartment, staying where you are, whatever makes sense for you and Emma. Why are you doing this? I mean, because you asked me to let you solve your own problems. This gives you the resources to do that without it being about us. If we break up tomorrow, the contract stands. This is business. Noah read through the terms. Everything was fair, professional, exactly what a partnership should look like. And what about us? He asked quietly. The personal us. I want to try again, slower this time, with better boundaries. You were right that we moved too fast, but I wasn't wrong that I love you. She met his eyes. I'm willing to be patient, to let you set the pace, to prove that this isn't just some rich person's whim. The photographers are being dealt with. I hired security. They can't come within 100 feet of Emma's school, and my publicist issued a statement making it clear that any outlet publishing photos of Emma without permission will face legal action. You can do that? I can when I threaten to pull all my family's advertising from their parent companies. Victoria smiled slightly. Money can't fix everything, but it can fix some things. Noah looked at this woman who'd walked into his life a month ago and turned everything upside down, who'd learned to grocery shop and wash dishes and sit through first-grade field trips, who'd stepped down from running a billion-dollar company to build something that actually mattered. "I'm sorry," he said, "for pushing you away, for assuming the worst, for letting fear make my decisions. I'm sorry too, for not listening when you told me what you needed, for thinking I could buy my way into your life. You didn't buy your way in, you showed up. That's different. So we try again?" Noah reached across the table and took her hand. "We try again, but I need you to understand something. Emma comes first, always. If this relationship ever threatens her well-being, I will choose her, every time. I know. And I wouldn't respect you if you didn't. And we do this right. Professional boundaries at work, clear separation between business and personal. I won't be the guy who's only successful because he's sleeping with the boss. You're not sleeping with the boss. You're sleeping with your business partner. We're still not actually sleeping together. Well, we should probably fix that at some point." Noah laughed, and it felt like breathing again. "Slow, remember?" "Right, slow." Victoria grinned, but maybe not too slow. They signed the partnership papers that afternoon at Victoria's lawyer's office. It was official, binding, real. Noah walked out feeling like he'd just signed a treaty instead of a business contract, but also feeling more secure than he had in weeks. That evening, the three of them had dinner at Noah's apartment, takeout Chinese because nobody felt like cooking. Emma monopolized Victoria's attention, showing her every drawing and school project from the past 3 days. "I made this for you," Emma said, presenting a crayon drawing of 3 people holding hands. "That's you, and that's Daddy, and that's me." Victoria's eyes got suspiciously bright. "This is beautiful. Can I keep it?" "You have to. I made it special." After Emma went to bed, Noah and Victoria sat on the couch with tea, maintaining careful distance. "I found an apartment," Noah said. 2-bedroom in the same neighborhood. "It's small, but it works. I can afford it with the salary and stipend." "That's great. When do you move?" 3 weeks. Gives me time to pack and transfer Emma's stuff without disrupting her routine too much." "Do you need help moving?" "I need to do it myself, but you can come over after if you want. See the new place." "I'd like that." They sat in comfortable silence, just being together without pressure or expectations. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "When you told Emma I was busy, did she believe you?" "Not even a little bit. She knew I was lying, said I looked the same way I did when her mom left." Victoria winced. "I'm sorry, I never want to hurt her like that." "Then don't leave. Not unless you have to. She's getting attached to you. If you're not in this for real, I'm in this for real, for both of you. I know it's scary and complicated and there's no guarantee it works. But I want to try. Really try." Noah pulled her closer. "Okay, then we try." The next 3 weeks blurred together in a chaos of packing, planning, and building. The housing project broke ground on the lot Victoria had claimed. News coverage was intense, but mostly positive. Billionaire heiress actually doing something good with her money was apparently newsworthy. Noah threw himself into the creative work, designing common spaces, choosing materials, creating a visual identity for the project that felt warm and inclusive. It was the most fulfilling work he'd done in years. Emma adjusted to the new normal, Victoria as a regular presence but not a constant one. Dinners twice a week, weekend outings to the park, slow and steady, building something real. Moving day arrived with Marcus and 2 of Victoria's staff members helping load boxes into a truck. The new apartment was smaller than the old one, but brighter, with actual closet space and a kitchen window that let in morning light. Victoria showed up at noon with sandwiches and drinks for everyone. She helped unpack boxes, hanging Emma's drawings on the refrigerator, assembling furniture, making the space feel like home. By evening, most of the boxes were empty, and Emma was racing through the new rooms with barely contained excitement. "I have my own bathroom," she announced. "Well, kind of. It's connected to my room." "That's very fancy," Victoria agreed. "Daddy, can Victoria sleep over?" Noah nearly dropped the lamp he was installing. "Emma, not like sleep, just sleep, because it's late and she helped us move and it would be nice." Victoria looked at Noah, clearly trying not to laugh. "I wouldn't want to impose." "You wouldn't be imposing," Emma insisted. "We have a couch. It's very comfortable. I tested it." "Emma, Victoria has her own place." "Actually," Victoria said, "I'd love to stay, if it's okay with your dad. Noah looked between them, Emma hopeful, Victoria amused, both of them clearly conspiring against his carefully maintained boundaries. Fine, but just for tonight. Emma cheered and immediately began gathering blankets and pillows for Victoria's makeshift bed. Noah finished the lamp installation while Victoria helped Emma get ready for bed in the new bathroom. Later, after Emma was asleep, Noah and Victoria sat on the couch surrounded by half-empty boxes. "This is nice," Victoria said. "Messy and chaotic and completely imperfect. That's my aesthetic." "I like your aesthetic." She leaned against him and Noah wrapped an arm around her shoulders. They sat like that for a long time, not talking, just existing in the quiet of a new beginning. "Thank you," Noah said eventually. "For what?" "For showing up today. For helping. For letting me do this my way but being here anyway. Thank you for letting me be here. For trusting me with Emma. For giving us another chance." Noah kissed the top of her head. "I'm glad we're trying." "Me too." The apartment settled around them. New space, new possibilities, the future uncertain, but somehow less terrifying than before. Noah thought about the man he'd been 2 months ago, angry and exhausted and barely holding on. That man wouldn't recognize this life, this partnership, this relationship, this hope. But he was learning that sometimes the best things came from the most unexpected places. From knocking on the wrong door at 2 a.m., from calling someone spoiled and selfish and completely out of touch, from being willing to try again, even when everything logical said it couldn't work. Victoria fell asleep on the couch, her head on Noah's shoulder. He should wake her, send her to the guest room, maintain those careful boundaries. Instead, he pulled a blanket over both of them and closed his eyes. Tomorrow they'd figure out the rest. Tonight, this was enough. 6 months later, Noah stood in front of a building that hadn't existed when he'd first knocked on Victoria's door. 300 units of affordable housing stretched toward the sky, its facade a mix of brick and glass that somehow felt both modern and welcoming. The community center occupied the ground floor, its windows revealing families already gathering inside even though the official opening wasn't until this afternoon. Emma tugged on his hand. "Daddy, there's Madison. Can I go say hi?" "Stay where I can see you." She took off running, and Noah watched her go, 7 years old now, taller, more confident, still carrying that stuffed rabbit everywhere. Some things didn't change. Victoria appeared at his elbow, clipboard in hand, looking harried. "The caterer's running late and the sound system isn't working, and apparently the mayor's bringing an extra 30 people nobody told me about." "Breathe," Noah said. "I'm breathing. You're catastrophizing. I'm being realistic." Noah took the clipboard from her hands. "Everything's going to be fine. The building is done. That's what matters." Victoria looked up at the structure they'd spent 6 months bringing to life. "It's really done, isn't it?" "It's really done." She leaned against him for a moment, allowing herself to feel it. They'd fought for this building through city council meetings and zoning disputes, and 1,000 small crises that had threatened to derail everything. The board had tried to shut it down 3 times. Victoria's mother had backed them every time, but it had cost her. Relationships fractured, old alliances broken. "I keep waiting for something to go wrong," Victoria admitted. "Something will, but not today." Marcus appeared with Emma and Madison in tow. "Boss, the press is starting to show up. You want to do interviews now or after the ceremony?" Noah still wasn't used to being called boss. The partnership had grown faster than expected. They'd taken on 2 more affordable housing projects and were consulting on 3 others. Marcus had joined them as operations director after getting fed up with corporate design work. They'd hired 4 more people last month. "After," Noah decided. "Let them see the space first. Let them talk to the families moving in." Victoria squeezed his hand and headed off to deal with the sound system crisis. Noah watched her go, still marveling at the fact that this was his life now, that he got to wake up next to her most mornings, that they'd built something real together. Not that it had been smooth. They'd had fights, big ones, about money, about control, about whose vision should win when they disagreed. Victoria still occasionally tried to solve problems by throwing resources at them. Noah still occasionally shut down when he felt overwhelmed, but they'd learned to recognize the patterns, to call each other out, to apologize and adjust. Emma ran over with Madison. "Can we go explore the community center? Stay together and don't touch anything that looks breakable." The girls disappeared inside. Noah followed more slowly, taking in every detail. The children's area with its colorful murals and reading nooks. The teaching kitchen where cooking classes would start next week. The flexible workspace where parents could access computers and job training. The art studio where Noah himself would be teaching illustration to kids starting next month. Every element had been designed with intention, with dignity, with the understanding that affordable didn't mean cheap and that people deserved beautiful spaces regardless of their income. A woman approached him, young, early 20s, holding a toddler. "Are you Noah Bennett?" "That's me." "I just wanted to say thank you. My family is moving into Unit 412 next week. This place is going to change our lives." Noah felt his throat tighten. "You're welcome. But really, you should thank Victoria Hale. She's the one who made this possible. I read that you two designed it together, that you grew up in buildings like this and wanted to make them better." Noah had told that story in an interview last month, about his own childhood in cramped apartments with broken heating and landlords who didn't care, about wanting Emma to have better, about realizing that millions of families were stuck in the same trap he'd escaped through luck and determination. "This building is what I wish I'd had growing up," he said honestly. "Safe, clean, built with families in mind." The woman smiled. "Well, you gave that to my son, so thank you." She moved on, and Noah stood there feeling the weight of what they'd accomplished. This wasn't abstract anymore. These were real people with real lives about to be changed by choices he and Victoria had made. Marcus found him staring at the teaching kitchen. "You good?" "Yeah, this is real. Very real. Also, your daughter and Madison just tried to climb into the fountain outside." Of course they did. Noah went to extract Emma from her latest adventure, reminding her for the 100th time that just because something looked climbable didn't mean she should climb it. Victoria was doing a walkthrough with the mayor, pointing out accessibility features and energy-efficient systems. She caught Noah's eye and smiled, and he felt that familiar flutter that hadn't faded despite 6 months of domesticity. The opening ceremony started at 2. Speeches from the mayor, from Victoria, from representatives of the families moving in. Noah had prepared remarks but scrapped them at the last minute, speaking from the heart instead. 6 months ago, I was a guy barely holding my life together, working 2 jobs to afford a tiny apartment that was falling apart. I didn't think things could change, and then I met someone who reminded me that change was possible if you were willing to fight for it. He looked at Victoria in the front row. This building represents a choice. The choice to say that everyone deserves a safe home. That affordable housing doesn't have to mean cutting corners or treating people like numbers. That we can build beautiful, functional spaces for everyone, not just the wealthy. He talked about the families moving in, about the community they'd create together, about the responsibility they all shared to make this work. When he finished, the applause was genuine, and several people were crying. Emma ran up to him afterward. "Daddy, that was a really good speech." "Thanks, baby." "Are we rich now?" Noah laughed. "No, we're comfortable. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Rich is what Victoria used to be. Comfortable is being able to pay bills without panicking and maybe have enough left over for ice cream." "I like comfortable." "Me too." The afternoon dissolved into tours and interviews and photographs. Families walked through their future homes, eyes wide with possibility. Kids ran through the community spaces, claiming territories and making friends. The teaching kitchen filled with people sampling food from local vendors who'd be running programs in the space. Noah found Victoria on the roof garden as the sun started setting, surrounded by plants that weren't quite established yet but would be beautiful by summer. The city sprawled around them, millions of lives intersecting and separating in the endless urban dance. "Hey," he said. "Hey." She turned to him. "Did Emma really try to climb the fountain?" "She's adventurous." "She's 7. Adventurous 7-year-olds climb things. It's in their nature." Victoria smiled, but it was tired. "I can't believe we actually did this." "Having doubts?" "No, just overwhelmed. In a good way." Noah pulled her close. "You stepped down from a billion-dollar company to build housing for working families. You fought your own board. You risked everything you had. And you did it because it mattered more than profit." "We did it. I couldn't have done this without you." "Yeah, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to." They stood there, watching the city light up as darkness fell. Somewhere below, Emma was probably getting into something she shouldn't. Marcus was likely handling some crisis Noah didn't know about yet. Life was messy and complicated and full of problems that didn't have easy solutions. But they'd built something good, something that mattered. "I have something to show you," Victoria said, "in the community center. Come on." She led him back downstairs to a room they'd designated for art programs. In the center was a large display case, and inside was the children's book they'd created together. Victoria's story about affordable housing, Noah's illustrations bringing it to life. The book had been published 3 months ago and was doing surprisingly well, with all proceeds going to housing advocacy groups. But that wasn't what Victoria was showing him. Next to the book was a rendering of their next project, a mixed-use development in Brooklyn with 200 affordable units, ground-floor retail space for local businesses, and a rooftop farm. "The city approved it yesterday," Victoria said. "Full permits. We can break ground next month." Noah studied the rendering. "This is bigger than the first one. We're getting better at this, learning what works. And we've got investors now, people who actually believe in what we're doing. How many projects can we realistically handle? As many as we need to. There are 8 million people in this city, Noah. Tens of thousands of them can't afford safe housing. We're not going to solve that overnight, but we can make a dent." "You sound like an activist." "I sound like someone who finally figured out what she's supposed to be doing with her life." Noah wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "I'm proud of you. You know that, right?" "I'm proud of us." They stood there until Emma found them, demanding dinner and attention in equal measure. The three of them walked to a nearby restaurant. Nothing fancy, just good food and loud conversation. Emma told them about every detail of her day, barely pausing for breath. Victoria listened with the patience she'd developed over months of practice. After dinner, they walked Emma home to Noah's apartment. She was staying with him tonight while Victoria dealt with post-event cleanup and meetings. They'd fallen into a rhythm, some nights together, some apart, maintaining space while building a life. Emma hugged Victoria goodbye at the door. "Can you come to my school thing on Friday?" "What school thing?" "We're doing presentations about what our parents do. I want to tell everyone about the building." Victoria looked at Noah, uncertainty crossing her face. "If it's okay with your dad." "Of course it's okay," Noah said. "You're part of this family." The words hung in the air, bigger than he'd intended. Victoria's eyes got bright. "I'd love to come," she told Emma. "What time?" 2 o'clock. And you have to dress normal, not fancy." "I can do normal." After Emma went to bed, Noah walked Victoria down to her car, the practical sedan she'd bought to replace the luxury vehicle that had drawn too much attention. "Did you mean it?" Victoria asked. "About being family?" "Yeah. I know we haven't made it official or anything, but that's what this is, isn't it? You and me and Emma, building a life together." "I want to make it official." Noah's heart stuttered. "What?" Victoria pulled a small box from her pocket. "I was going to wait for a better moment, but there's never going to be a perfect time, and I'm tired of waiting for perfect. Noah Bennett, will you marry me?" Noah stared at the box, then at her face. "You're serious?" "Completely. I love you. I love Emma. I love the life we've built and the work we do and the messy, complicated reality of being together. I want to make it permanent. You're proposing to me in a parking lot. I proposed at our building, but you were busy being proud of me." Noah laughed, slightly hysterical. "This is insane." "So is everything else we've done. Say yes anyway." He thought about the man he'd been 8 months ago, angry and exhausted and convinced his life would never change. He thought about the moment he'd knocked on that penthouse door and yelled at a stranger, about every choice since then that had led to this moment. "What about Emma?" he asked. "Did you ask her?" "Last week. She said yes immediately and made me promise to let her be in the wedding." "You asked my 7-year-old daughter before you asked me?" "She's the most important person in your life. I needed her blessing first." Noah pulled Victoria into his arms. "Yes. Of course, yes. But I have conditions." "Name them." "We do this right. Real partnership, real equality. You don't try to fix all my problems with money, and I don't shut you out when things get hard." "Deal. And we keep building these projects, keep making housing that actually helps families. That's the work that matters." "Absolutely. And Emma stays the priority. Always." I wouldn't have it any other way. Noah kissed her, and it felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were grinning like idiots. I can't believe you proposed to me, Noah said. Someone had to. You would have taken another year to work up the courage. Fair point. They stood in the parking lot of the building they'd created together, and Noah felt the impossible weight of gratitude. For the noise complaint that had started everything, for Victoria's willingness to step into his world, for Emma's acceptance of this strange new family configuration, for the chance to build something that mattered with someone he loved. The next morning, Noah told Emma over breakfast. She cheered so loud the neighbors probably heard. Does this mean Victoria's going to be my mom? Not exactly. You have a mom, but Victoria will be my wife, which makes her your stepmom. That's even better. I get two moms and you. That's one way to look at it. Emma was already planning the wedding in her head, complete with detailed specifications about her dress and the flowers and whether they could have a unicorn. Noah let her dream, knowing that the actual wedding would probably be small and simple. Just family and close friends, nothing like the society event Victoria's mother would want. They told Victoria's mother that evening over dinner at her Upper East Side apartment. Margaret Hale studied the engagement ring, a simple band with a small diamond, nothing ostentatious, and then looked at Noah. "You're sure about this?" she asked. "Completely. My daughter can be difficult, strong-willed, stubborn. So can I. We'll figure it out." Margaret smiled. "You're good for her. You remind her who she is when she forgets. That's worth more than all the board approvals in the world." She gave them her blessing and immediately started planning a small reception, promising to keep it intimate despite her instinct to invite half of New York. Noah appreciated the effort. The wedding planning happened in stolen moments between work and parenting and building their second project. They decided on a small ceremony in the community center they'd built, the space that represented everything they'd created together, 50 people maximum. Emma as flower girl, Marcus as best man, Victoria's niece Sophie as maid of honor. 3 months later, on a Saturday afternoon in October, Noah stood in the teaching kitchen of the community center waiting for the ceremony to start. Marcus adjusted his tie for the third time. "You nervous?" Marcus asked. "Terrified." Of marrying Victoria? Of screwing this up, of not being enough, of letting her down. "Man, you've been enough since the moment she met you. That's why she said yes." The music started. Emma walked down the aisle first, taking her role seriously, dropping rose petals with precise concentration. Then Victoria appeared, walking alone because she'd insisted she didn't need to be given away by anyone. She wore a simple dress, cream-colored, elegant without being fussy. Her hair was down. No veil. Just Victoria as herself, which was all Noah had ever wanted. They'd written their own vows. Victoria went first. "Noah, 8 months ago, you knocked on my door and told me I was selfish and spoiled and completely out of touch. You were right. But you didn't just tell me what was wrong. You showed me what was possible. You let me into your world even though I didn't belong there. You taught me that real life isn't about money or status. It's about showing up for the people you love. You made me want to be better. And you loved me even when I was still figuring out how." She paused, blinking back tears. "I promise to keep showing up, to keep learning, to keep building things that matter with you. To love Emma like she's my own, to be your partner in every sense of the word, to never stop trying to deserve the gift of being part of your life." Noah's turn. He'd practiced this 100 times, but the words still came out shaky. "Victoria, when you walked into my life, I was convinced I had to do everything alone, that asking for help was weakness, that protecting Emma meant keeping everyone else at a distance. You proved me wrong about all of it. You showed me that partnership isn't about one person being strong while the other is weak. It's about both people being strong together. You made me believe that building something meaningful was possible even when every practical voice said it wasn't." He took her hands. "I promise to let you help when I need it, and to help you when you need it, to keep creating spaces where families can thrive, to raise Emma together, to build this business together, to face whatever comes next together, to never stop being grateful that you knocked back when I knocked on your door." The officiant pronounced them married. They kissed while Emma cheered and Marcus whooped, and 50 people who'd become family over the past 8 months celebrated. The reception was simple: food from the teaching kitchen, Music from a local band, dancing in the community room. Families who'd moved into the building came down to join the celebration, bringing their kids and their joy. It wasn't elegant or sophisticated, but it was real. Emma danced with both her parents, biological and step, and looked happier than Noah had ever seen her. Victoria's mother surprised everyone by dancing with Marcus and laughing at his terrible jokes. The mayor showed up uninvited but brought a generous donation to their next project, so they forgave the intrusion. Late in the evening, Noah and Victoria stepped outside for air. The building rose above them, lights glowing in windows where families were settling in for the night. Their building, their accomplishment. "We did it," Victoria said. We're just getting started." "I know, but we did this part. We got married. We built something that matters. We proved everyone wrong who said it couldn't work." Noah pulled her close. "I love you. I love you too. And I love our weird, complicated, imperfect life. It's pretty good, isn't it? It's everything." They went back inside to their celebration, to their daughter dancing with her friends, to the community they'd helped create. Noah thought about that night 8 months ago when he'd stood in a hallway at 2 a.m., exhausted and angry and at the end of his rope. When he'd knocked on a stranger's door and said exactly what he thought without caring about consequences. That decision had changed everything. Not because it was romantic or destined, but because it was honest. Because he'd stopped pretending he was fine and demanded something better. Because Victoria had listened instead of dismissing him. Because they'd both been willing to step into each other's worlds and learn what they didn't know. The work wasn't finished. There were buildings to construct, families to house, systems to change. There would be setbacks and failures and moments when they questioned everything. But they'd face it together, with Emma beside them, building something that mattered one choice at a time. Emma grabbed Noah's hand. "Daddy, they're doing the cake soon. You have to come." "Okay, baby, we're coming. Victoria took his other hand and they walked back into the celebration together. 3 people who shouldn't have fit, but somehow did. A family built from noise complaints and honesty and the willingness to try. The cake was chocolate, Emma's choice, and probably too sweet, but nobody cared. They ate and laughed and danced until the kids started falling asleep on their parents' shoulders. People filtered out slowly, leaving behind hugs and congratulations and promises to see them at the next community event. Noah, Victoria, and Emma were the last ones to leave the building. They walked home through Manhattan streets that never slept, Emma between them holding both their hands. "This was the best day," Emma announced. "Yeah?" Noah asked. "Yeah, we're a real family now." "We were a real family before," Victoria said gently. "I know, but now it's official." They reached the apartment building, Noah's building now, not the one with the penthouse, though Victoria still kept that space for late work nights. They climbed the stairs together, Emma chattering about cake and dancing and whether they could do this every weekend. Inside the apartment, Noah and Victoria got Emma ready for bed, while she protested that she wasn't tired even though she could barely keep her eyes open. They read her a story, one of the books Victoria had bought that first day, and watched her drift off mid-sentence. "She's asleep," Victoria whispered. Finally. They retreated to the living room, both of them exhausted in the best way. Noah's jacket was somewhere. Victoria's shoes had been abandoned hours ago. They collapsed on the couch together, not bothering with the remaining wedding cleanup. "We're married," Victoria said, like she was testing the words. "We're married," Noah confirmed. "How does it feel?" "The same, but also completely different." "That makes no sense." "I know." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that came from knowing someone well enough that words weren't always necessary. Outside, the city hummed its endless song. Inside, their small apartment held everything that mattered. "Thank you," Victoria said quietly. "For what?" "For yelling at me that night, for not letting me get away with being careless, for showing me what actually matters. Thank you for listening, for stepping into my world, for loving my daughter like she's yours. She is mine. Both of you are." Noah pulled her closer, feeling the truth of it settle into his bones. This was his life now. Not perfect, not easy, but real and full, and worth every difficult moment that had led here. They'd built something together, not just buildings, but a relationship that worked because they chose it every day, because they were honest about the hard parts, because they kept showing up even when it would have been easier to walk away. And tomorrow they'd wake up and do it again. Choose each other, choose Emma, choose the work that mattered, build communities and families and lives that had dignity and purpose. It had started with anger and insomnia and a knock on the wrong door. It had grown through grocery shopping and field trips and learning to see the world through someone else's eyes. It had survived photographers and doubt and the terrifying gap between their worlds. And now it was this: a marriage, a family, a partnership built on honesty and hope, and the radical belief that people deserved better than the systems that had failed them. Noah looked around his small living room, so different from where Victoria had started, so much richer than he'd ever imagined his life could be. Not in money, though that had gotten easier, but in meaning, in purpose, in love. "We should probably go to bed," Victoria said. "Probably." Neither of them moved. "In a minute," Noah added. "In a minute." They stayed there on the couch, wrapped in each other and the quiet satisfaction of a day well lived, a life well chosen, a future built together one honest choice at a time. And when they finally did make it to bed, it was with the deep contentment of people who knew exactly where they belonged. In the morning, Emma would wake them up too early with plans for breakfast and questions about when they could build another building. Victoria would make terrible coffee, and Noah would fix it without commenting. They'd navigate the ordinary chaos of family life, school and work, and 1,000 small decisions that added up to a shared existence. But tonight, in the stillness after celebration, Noah felt the weight of what they'd accomplished. Not just the wedding or the building, but the harder work of becoming people who could build something together, of learning to be vulnerable and strong at the same time, of choosing partnership over pride. He'd been wrong that night 8 months ago when he'd thought Victoria Hale was just another rich person who didn't care about anyone else. She'd been wrong to think money could insulate her from the realities of life. They'd both been wrong about what they needed, what was possible, what love could look like when it was built on truth instead of convenience. But they'd been willing to be wrong, to learn, to change. And that had made all the difference.